Welcome to the Sunday morning show. This is your friendly neighborhood contrarian, Face Man. We got a lot of really good topics today to talk about. Sneak peek. Boom. Okay. Now, let's play our song of the day. Soulja Boy was in the news this week a lot. He pretty much dominated the hip-hop news cycle. So let's play the song that started the phenomenon. Crank That by Soulja Boy. Tell 'em.
Soulja Boy in it, oh, watch it crack that, watch it, oh, watch it crack that Soulja Boy, Superman, and watch it you, and watch me you, and watch me you.
Who is Soulja Boy, and what in the heck is that dance?
Who's Soulja Boy?
PRB.
Soulja Boy, tough. Hey, I got this new dance for y'all called the Soulja Boy. You just gotta punch, then crank back 3 times from left to right. Soulja Boy, I'm in it. Why me crank it? Why me roll? Why me crank that Soulja Boy? That Superman? That now why me crank that Soulja? 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 Now what? Soulja Boy, I'm in it. Why me crank it? Why me roll? Why me crank that Soulja Boy? That Superman? That now why me crank that Soulja? Now why me crank that Soulja? Now why me crank that Soulja? Now what? Crank that Soulja? Now what? Soulja Boy, up in it. Why me lean that? Why me rock? Superman? That yeah, why me crank that Robocop? Super friend, now why me jocking on them, hate them, man. When I do that Soulja Boy, I lean to the left, then crank that thing now. I'm jocking on you, and if we get the fight, then I'm you catch me at your local party, yes, I crank it every day. Haters get mad, cause I got me some baby Nate. Soulja Boy, I'm in it. Why me crank it? Why me roll? Why me crank that Soulja Boy? That Superman? That now why me crank that Soulja? 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 Now what? Soulja Boy, I'm in it. Why me crank it? Why me roll? Why me crank that Soulja Boy? That Superman? That now why me crank that Soulja? 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 Now what? I'm bouncing on my toes. Why me super soak that? I'ma pass to A-Rab and he gon' crank it up for sure. Haters wanna beat me, Soulja Boy, I'm the man. They be looking at my neck, saying it's the rubber band, man. Why me do it? Damn, let get to it. No, you can't do it like me, though. So don't do it like me, folk. I seen you try to do it like me. Man, that damn was ugly. Soulja Boy, I'm in it. Why me crank it? Why me roll? Why me crank that Soulja Boy? That Superman? That now why me crank that Soulja? 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 Now what? Soulja Boy, I'm in it. Why me crank it? Why me roll? Why me crank that Soulja Boy? That Superman? That now why me crank that Soulja? 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 Now what? I'm too fresh, I'm in it. Why me crank it? Why me crank that Roosevelt and super soak that? Super soak that. Super soak that. Super soak that. Super soak that. I'm too fresh, now why me shuffle? Why me crank that Soulja Boy? Now Superman. 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 Soulja Boy, I'm in it. Why me crank it? Why me roll? Why me crank that Soulja Boy? That Superman? That now why me crank that Soulja? 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 Now what? Soulja Boy, I'm in it. Why me crank it? Why me roll? Why me crank that Soulja Boy? That Superman? That now why me crank that Soulja? 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 Now what?
Good evening. We had intended to speak at the top of this program with...
Whoa. Don't skip ahead. Okay, let me just send out a couple tweets so people know that I'm live. I woke up a bit late, like 9:45 this morning. Dude, I was up last night going down the rabbit hole of crazy YouTube videos. Oh man, we got a lot to talk about. Guys. We got a whole lot to talk about. And we're about to get into it as soon as I send some tweets out. TV. That should be fine. Just hopefully they retweet it and stuff. All right, so so Soulja Boy, we might as well start with him because he has been dominating hip hop news. He's been going on a PR press run. He's been on the Breakfast. He's been on all the talk shows this week. Breakfast Club, Everyday Struggle, and it's been pretty hilarious. One thing I've noticed is that he seems to be following the same blueprint of Tekashi 6ix9ine's interview style. He's just trolling hard and memeing hard, man. And that's basically what you have to do nowadays if you want to be, if you want to go viral. That's the whole thing. And I was watching this video. It's not even on my list here. I was watching this video yesterday that goes in on the whole Pepe thing and how there was an ancient god named KEK and all this stuff, and it's the god of chaos and oh my god, it's really creepy when you actually look at it and you actually find out that there's people that believe this shit. And I firmly believe in the idea that the more human attention you give something, the more power you give it, So the whole Pepe thing is like a sigil, and according to the idea of this black magic and stuff, we're charging these sigils with emotions, right? So what do you do when you look at memes? You're laughing, or some memes make you sad or whatever, all these. And when you experience these emotions, they go onto this sigil, which is the Pepe the Frog. And that kind of relates to this Soulja Boy thing, because in these interviews, you can't really tell what is a lie and what isn't. Because I know for a fucking fact, he didn't license any games, dude. I know exactly what he's doing. There's plenty of videos that explain what he's doing with the video game consoles. He's drop shipping. He's doing drop shipping. And if you don't know what that is, you need to look it up to understand what it is, okay? Basically, you have a storefront website, right? This is how typically it goes. You have a storefront website like Store Envy, let's say, right? That's where you look at your online store. That's where you see all your products, right? Somebody goes on there, they click to buy, right? You get like an email saying, hey, this person bought this. Then you through your account on a site like Printful, you order the shirt and deliver it to them straight from the warehouse at Printful or whatever. So Printful makes the shirt, they store it in the warehouse, they send it out. So that's basically what he's doing with the consoles. He's like getting them from Alibaba or whatever the fuck. Like $20 each or whatever. $10 each even. What the hell is this? Hold on a second. Somebody sent me files. Who is this? Camilla. Who the hell is this? Some random person sending me music. I don't even know who this person is. It's weird. Anyways, we're gonna get into all of this shit right now. Okay, so we're gonna start looking at the most infamous Soulja Boy interview, which is the interview on let me put this to the side because I need to change my title. I think I should put in my title some of the topics. But anyways, we're gonna play some of this interview.
Wake that ass up in the morning. The Breakfast Club.
It's a long interview, and I'm sure.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ Envy, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the God. We are the Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building.
If you've heard anything about Soulja Boy this week, you've probably already seen this video. So we're not gonna play the whole thing, but we're gonna play some pieces of it, and particularly about the video game console part, because that is a complete lie. And I can't verify any of the other stuff he says, because he'll say stuff like, oh, multi-million-dollar house, like blah blah blah, and this is real and that is real, and like some people were like joking about like his chains might not be real, like they sound hollow or some shit, and he's like, no man, like so he said like, so he has to defend himself because he just trolls so hard, and like he pretend he'll and that's like a key tactic of like deception. You'll say one thing that's real, and then you'll say something that's fake like right after, and so Soulja Boy is actually really smart in the way he's promoting himself in today's society. He is definitely aligning himself with I don't know if you could say the culture or just like the way things are working right now. You know what I'm saying? Because like the more I look into that fucking Pepe shit and the fucking, and I don't know if it's culture or if it's some other shit, dude. It's like, some kind of fucking energy or spiritual shit going on here. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, man. I believe anything is possible. That we live within infinite possibility. That this reality is not the only reality, and that Pepe shit goes deep, man. It goes even into like fucking alternate dimensions and the fucking there's this fucking thing called KEK in Japan. This thing like the Large Hadron Collider that smashes atoms together. Oh man, it's so creepy. It's so creepy. But anyways, let's play some of this right here.
Big Draco!
Soulja Boy!
Yes, sir.
Welcome!
What's poppin'? This motherfucker smell like 2 pounds of marijuana. It smell like the loudest kush you could find in New York this morning, sir.
Is this Soulja Boy's first time on The Breakfast Club?
Yeah, it's my first time.
Yeah.
That's amazing. We've been on for 8 years.
I know.
And now
you
you
had
decided
so
to come?
much going on.
Yes.
And this is your first time here. So
First time, man. I feel good. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let me look at your nostrils. Let me look up and make
What's in his nostrils?
no coke remnants. So yeah, just the weed smell.
Yes, sir.
Why you think Soulja Boy used coke?
I don't think. That's what the internet say. Where those rumors start?
Those rumors started with a video from Cat Stacks. I was in Atlanta and I had some Tylenol pills on the table, and she crushed the Tylenol pills up, and she made a video on her cell phone and said I was doing cocaine.
I remember that now.
Yeah, and it leaked on the internet, and it started the rumor, but I never did cocaine in my life.
I'm sure it's been presented to you though. You've been in Hollywood for a little while as well.
Yeah, I've seen it, but I've never used it.
What made you mess with Cat Stacks? There was so many rumors.
Cat Stacks?
Yeah, Cat Stacks.
Man, she just was viral at the time, man. You young, dumb, with money. I just wanted to see what it was about. She was all over the internet with every other rapper. So I just
So you
DM'd.
wanted your shot.
Yeah, I'm like, what's up? Pull up. Let me
Goodness
see what this
gracious.
about.
It's like a status symbol almost. Like it's like buying a Gucci headband.
Yeah.
You do it because you can do it.
Yeah, it turned out to be a nightmare though. It was like one of the, a bad mistake. You know what I'm saying?
So
But,
in retrospect, if you could go back in time, you wouldn't have done that.
I mean, at the end of the day, everything is written already.
And that Gucci headband, that's kind of like symbolic to what Soulja Boy is. It's like it's fucking all stretched out and looks all stretched out and old or some shit like that. And like Soulja Boy's old news. He doesn't have dude, man, like he literally is like a one-hit wonder. His only number one hit was the Crank That over 10 years ago. And in this interview, he's like basically talking about like he's the best rapper alive.
From the beginning to the end of your life, so it's nothing I could have changed. You know what I'm saying? So I just look at it as me living and learning from a mistake that I made, and it made me a better person. Not to.
So the nut wasn't worth it?
No, it wasn't worth it.
Okay.
Well, since you said net worth, let's talk about that because we were talking about your net worth earlier.
Okay.
It says you're worth $30 million, and Charlamagne doesn't believe it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no. That could be your net worth. I'm just saying you don't have it in your bank account. Like the internet say I'm worth like 10, 15, but I don't have 10, 15 million in my bank account.
Of course, yeah, the net worth is different from what you have in your bank account.
Yes.
So you say you had the biggest comeback so far.
I did.
Bigger than Tyga.
Yeah.
So break that down for us. What makes you say that?
The proof is in the pudding. Look at me, you know what I'm saying? I had the biggest comeback of 2018, period.
Were you
You did
down?
it.
Were you really down before that and bounced back, you're saying?
Down and bounce back? No, I
Because
just...
that's a comeback,
A
it's
comeback?
Like
This whole interview is just constant misdirection. That's what this whole interview is. It's just constant misdirection.
down and then you bounce back.
No, as far as me, I just feel like, I went through I look at that, like when I say comeback, I'm not meaning like, oh, I fell off and I had to get back on. Not like that. I'm saying, what is this?
Your gum.
Oh, it's a movie. It's a motion picture. Look, so I'm not saying that, I had the biggest comeback. I'm just saying like, 2016, 2017, I got into all them problems with the Migos and Chris Brown and Shia LaBeouf and this person, that person. And I was presenting in such a way where people counted me out. They was like, yo, what's up with Soulja? And I just hear a lot of people talking.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they were counting you out. They were just laughing at you. They weren't taking you serious.
Yeah, I mean, not even that. Even before that, like,
okay.
I came out with Crank That. Oh, he gonna be a one-hit wonder. I come out with Turn My Swag On. Oh, he can't do it again. I come out with Kiss Me Through the Phone. Nah, he can't do it again. I come out with Pretty Boy Swag. Nah, I go platinum.
Classic.
Crazy.
The last time you had an STD test, young Draco.
The other day, I'm Gucci.
The
Every
other
day.
day you
No,
had
first
an
you said
STD?
never now.
Nah, I thought you said, have you ever had an STD? I said never.
Oh, okay.
STD test all the time, nigga.
Okay.
Young Draco, I'm rich. I got the doctors, physicians, they pull up all that. Come on, man.
Are you still in a relationship? Because you're on
You don't
marriage
see me on
boot camp.
TV? Okay, you seen it then.
Who calling Big Draco this time of morning?
No, somebody from New York.
Weed man.
Now we did see
That's who
I
that
watched
is.
the first episode of Marriage Boot Camp, so I'm getting into it, right?
Right.
Now, let's talk about the trailer because we see Nia Riley saying that
That shit making a lot of noise, man. That shit hollow as fuck.
Yo, you just never had a lot of chains on top of each other. Any rapper in the game that wear their chains on top of each other, they gonna do like that. I'm sorry, it don't matter who it is. From
That
Migos,
sound real to you, Envy?
They gonna do that. Anybody chains gonna do that. Envy chains are smart.
Now keep in mind, they always have rappers on with that, wear their bling and shit. So they would be the ones to know if it sounds real or not, right? So maybe there's something to that. I mean, if he's out here trying to sell a counterfeit console, I don't think it'd be too far from. It wouldn't be too much of a stretch to say that he's wearing some hollowed out jewelry. And he even says in this interview or another interview that he's cheap. That, because I mean, if he wasn't cheap, he would invest the money into like making a phone app game like Kim Kardashian did, and she made millions of dollars, just off of using her brand in a phone game. You know what I'm saying? Like, he could have done that. That's what I would have done instead of, committing, basically counterfeit crimes or intellectual property crimes and shit.
They can't hear they fellas.
Damn.
Your shit is small too, and it say rich bro.
I don't have on the
If
chain.
you got some chains and they big like this, they gonna come on, my nigga, feel that. That's drip. That's stacks on.
How it feel?
Okay.
That's SOD.
Pause,
That's
pause.
PTE. That's 3D diamonds. You tripping? This a bust down rollie, nigga. That's 80,000. Nigga, this star right here 20,000. Nigga, you tripping?
They had you on that fake watchbusters.com.
Yeah,
shit
plenty of
before.
times, but right now this is real though.
But right
This
now.
is right now I'm in the game. I was on there. A nigga gave me a fake AP for my birthday. I ain't gonna put him under the bus. The nigga in the industry gave me an AP. I thought it was real.
As a gift.
As a gift. I took a picture of it and they put me on. It's all good,
Who
my
was
nigga.
it? Put him on
I ain't gonna
blast.
I ain't gonna do him like that. I ain't gonna do him like that, but
Did he know it was fake?
You look clean though. You look like money, Big Draco.
Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, Charlamagne. I got my new video game, you know what I'm saying?
They say that shit counterfeit as fuck too now.
They always
Get ready for it. I mean, just look at it. If you know even just a little bit about the video game industry, you've seen shit like this all the time. But the thing is, most people have not seen this before. They don't know about emulator boxes. They don't know that you can go on Amazon and find the same shit for a fraction of the price. He was selling this shit for like this particular one. Was this the one he was selling for 400? No, that was like the Soulja game Fuse. This is the first one, and this was like I think $200 or $300. And I've seen so many videos on YouTube, like people reviewing this thing, or basically they're created by Abnic, ABNIC, I think is the name of the company. So he drop shipped these consoles. There's plenty of reviews out there, and it emulates like basically 2D games. I don't think it can even emulate 3D games like PlayStation 1. And not only that, but it emulates them very poorly. So this is what he's saying is a legit console that is licensed, and and when they ask him about if Nintendo gave him a cease and desist, and by the way, the site is down now, right? It's still down. Is it still down? That's what everybody's been saying. It's down. It's still down. And he was saying in this interview that he got hacked. Well, if that was true, then he could have had it back up in a minute.
hate on the black entrepreneur. They'll give props to the Asians at Nintendo, the white people at Xbox, white people at PlayStation, but a black entrepreneur to come out with a rapper, the first rapper to come out with his own video game, they're gonna say it's counterfeit and it's this and that. They're gonna try to shit on me, but I'm gonna keep striving and doing my thing because I made $250,000 in one day.
You
know
keep
what I'm
changing
saying?
that number now.
I know, because it keep
days.
going down, it keep going up with my phone. I'm gonna show you
going
the
down, it
receipts
keep
right
going
now.
up.
Is
I'm gonna show you.
Nintendo suing you for that video game?
I can't see my lawyers.
It keeps going down. It keeps going up. What? Ah.
That I can't speak on that. I'm sorry.
I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a return policy on those shits.
Envy.
Complex has an email set up called soldierwatchtip@gmail.com for anyone who's ordered Soulja Boy products but haven't received them.
This is the Soulja Boy video game right here.
It's a console.
You know what I'm saying? It's a console.
Why are they saying it's like a boot?
How much I make yesterday, Charlotte?
How much? Look how light that shit is. And I'm surprised when he passes it to Charlemagne that Charlemagne isn't like, whoa, this shit's light.
Did I make yesterday, Charlotte?
Boy, if you don't stop yelling at me.
How much did I make yesterday?
It's $233,000, $604.88.
Thank you. SoldierWatch.com.
It's a Google image, though.
Order your video. No, it's not.
I'm just fucking.
Google image. Come on, man.
It is an image, though. He showed the same image on Everyday Struggle, and they were saying, like, hey, this isn't the app, this is an image.
I do this. What it say, Envy? You can swipe through it, do your thing. Oh, swipe through it, tell them.
It say 2.
But are people receiving their products, though?
Yes, they are.
Complex got
This is what happened. This is what happened. I put up the video game. I thought it would only sell like 500 copies, 200 copies, not a lot. We got like a fucking 1,000, 10, 20,000 orders, and it got backed up. You know what I'm saying? I didn't expect it to sell that much.
So
you know what I'm saying?
back order.
So we got backed up. But
So what video games
your
can it
product
play?
is on the way.
So what games can it play?
It could play Super Mario. It could play
Right there. Let me stop you right there. Super Mario. Okay. Super Mario. The game that Nintendo keeps selling us over and over and over again for $5, $10 on his fucking online platforms. That anytime Nintendo comes out with a new platform now, They don't even give you, they're still selling you the same fucking games over and over again, $5, $10. They licensed it to you. The same company that never fucking licenses their fucking games to any other company except like CDI. That was like literally the only time Nintendo licensed anything out to another console was like CDI. Was it CDI? Whichever they had the really bad Zelda games. Was it CDI? Yes, this is why Nintendo will never do that again. Because of shit like this.
Courage to protect me. If you don't hear from me in a month, send link.
Impa, don't worry, Zed.
It could play Mortal Kombat, it could play Sonic, it could play Kirby, Pokemon. It comes with 800 pre-installed video games.
But isn't that like trademark counterfeit?
And they're all licensed.
So you clear the license and
yes,
everything.
sir.
Oh, so they can't
But they said
They
that you
can't.
removed the console because of threats of criminal charges
They
for
said-
breaking the
He said he
trademark
can't talk
counterfeit.
about it.
They said a lot of shit.
So that ain't true.
What really happened was we got
And the thing is, they don't play games like that. Like, he can just get away with saying that. Now, when he was on Everyday Struggle, DJ Academics, who actually is a gamer, did hold him more accountable, did put his feet a little closer to the fire, but I think DJ Academic, he didn't, at the end of the day, Soulja Boy was like, DJ Academics, I'm going to send you, give me your address, I'm going to send you the console, and like, they're like just like mad cool at the end of that interview. So like DJ Academics didn't really break it down. The word drop shipping, the term drop shipping was never said in any of these interviews. Soulja Boy has a point in that, Apple does scam people. All these companies, like the richest motherfuckers, they scam people. That's how they make money. Any billionaire, they don't become a billionaire without stepping on some people's necks, for sure. A billionaire. To be a millionaire, it'd be very hard even just to be a millionaire without stepping on some necks. But a billionaire, Apple is making all their products in China. It's like practically slave labor. They got like suicide nets outside of the Foxconn facility so that when people try to kill themselves, they don't kill themselves, right? These companies do a lot of fucked up shit, but it doesn't, two wrongs don't make a right. You know, you're still lying. You're still deceiving people. And you're deceiving people who just don't know any better. And in my opinion, deceiving your own people. You're deceiving a lot of black people who want to support a black entrepreneur. You know, they're already spending money on games like, oh, okay, black entrepreneur game console. But then when they finally get their game console 6 weeks later, they're gonna find out how shitty it is. But I don't know, maybe most people when they get it, they don't, maybe they're okay with it. Maybe having 800 games, a third of which probably just duplicated, and half of which don't even work properly. They'll probably be okay with that because they've never heard of emulator consoles and this is their first time getting one, and maybe they legitimately are satisfied with their product. Maybe. It's not too far a stretch. But still, dude. Still. And then you see this shit on Facebook too, man. Now Facebook, if you go on Facebook, they're doing the same shit. They're selling you these emulator, especially the handhelds, emulator consoles for twice the price. Charging you double of what it's worth.
Sold out, Charlotte.
So why you remove the console off the...
do you know what sold out means?
Yeah, but it would usually still have the console and say sold out. Like you took it off altogether.
Because I want the re-release version 2, which if you will go to soldierwatch.com right now, you will see that one up there.
Oh,
got an answer for you for everything.
They say Soulja Watch is just a fake Apple Watch. Is that true?
Yeah, they say Android is a fake Apple iPhone. They say a lot of stuff.
You get this money from it, right?
They say a lot of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. My product is legit.
Ironically, he's wearing an Apple Watch, not a Soulja Watch.
My product is assembled in China, just like the iPhone. If you turn your iPhone around and look on the back, it says what? Assembled in China. So why are they knocking me for getting my product made in China, but you're praising the iPhone?
This is like masterclass deception. He's mixing in facts with complete lies. This is how you fucking trick people.
It's overpriced ass shit.
Let me see.
They doing the same exact thing. Taking a fucking iPhone. Yo, you know how much it takes to make an iPhone in China?
How much?
You know?
$8.
I don't know, probably $20.
No.
This shit say made in Collie Park.
Do you know how?
Shut up! It don't say made Collie Park.
I love you, Charlie. You funny. Do you know how much it costs to make an iPhone in China?
How much?
Like $20?
Thank you. And
how much does it cost to make an iPhone in China? MIT Technology Review in 2016 putting together the iPhone in the US from parts made abroad would only cost about $30 to $40 more per phone. Oh, that's if made in the United States. Even if every part was made in the US. Okay. Even if a managed to bring home, there might not even be much of an advantage. Chinese only about $8 per phone. This isn't giving me the information I need. How much does it cost to make iPhone? It doesn't cost $20. It costs $443 to manufacture. I mean, they're still making a hefty profit on there. iPhone XS Max, priced at $1,249, says it costs Apple just $443. I mean, that's just about three times the cost. So what, they're making like 300% profit? I'm not good at math. I'm not good at math, but $443 to manufacture the iPhone, and it's $1,249 cost. But still, I mean, see, he still has a point. It's not $20 to make, but
they sell it for how much over here?
Too much.
1,000.
How much?
800,
Too
7,
much.
8.
How much?
1,000.
How much?
Yeah, 900.
How much is that in profit? Like $980?
Yeah.
So who really is the bad guy, me or Apple? Thank you.
I don't even know what you just did, but okay.
Now let's talk about your personal life.
Let's talk
Because you
about
are
it.
on marriage boot camp
Yes.
with Nia Riley. Are you guys still together?
You gotta watch the TV show. We TV every Thursday night at 10 o'clock. Tune in. I don't want to spill the beans.
What
We
made
saw,
you do
we
that
saw
show?
the preview where she
All
would.
right, we'll try to find that Drake part. It should be right here, I think.
Nobody else had a pistol?
I was the only one with a gun.
Damn.
All three of them can attest to this and tell you this story, but you're gonna see it on my movie when it come out though, you know what I'm saying, AMC theaters, but goddamn, I had to do that, bro. I had to shoot them niggas, Charlamagne. They would have killed me, bro.
I ain't mad at you.
Imagine if I wanted to start shooting. If 5 niggas with guns, they probably would have tied us up, you know what I'm saying, did all type of shit to us, bro. I didn't have no choice. I just started shooting. I ain't even think of nothing. I just started shooting.
I'm not mad at you. I had to
Know
do
what
the
I'm
same
saying?
thing.
And goddamn, they tried to kidnap my nigga Jabbar. They grabbed him and was holding him. They grabbed him like this and was holding him with the gun like this, trying to back out the house so they wouldn't get hit. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to shoot and not hit this nigga.
So you trying to
hold
shoot
on.
around Jabbar?
Yeah.
So where was
Crazy.
Jabbar? If he was in the studio with y'all, he
No,
can't.
A-Rab was in the studio. Jabbar was in the kitchen with Killer.
Oh,
It
how
was
was
2
that
people in the
Drake?
kitchen.
Got
It was
you.
1 person in the studio with me and A-Rab. And that's what happened.
Was he eating or
The
something?
other nigga was holding. Yeah, Killer was making a sandwich.
I said, what
He was
kind?
making. No, he was making.
The biggest rapper in the world.
These niggas, yeah, Drake. Drake. The nigga that got bodied by Pusha T. The nigga that hiding his kid from the world, but his world wanna hide from the kid. Aubrey Graham in a wheelchair. Drake.
Yes.
This is like the dude is such a bad rapper, but such a good fucking marketer. Now you see this meme all over the place.
Y'all niggas better stop playing with me.
Talking about he's better than Drake, who fucking constantly releasing number 1 hits.
Y'all talking about the light skinned nigga from DeGeneres?
From Toronto.
Yo, stop playing with me.
From where?
The grassy. not
Stop
the
playing with me like I ain't teach Drake everything he know.
Hold on, you taught Drake everything he knows.
Y'all didn't hear Drake on with his first song? Tell me what's really going on. Drizzy Drake back in this thing already. That's Soulja.
Shit.
That's
Oh,
my bar.
shit.
He copied my whole fucking
shit.
flow.
That's Kiss Me Through the Phone.
He copied my whole fucking flow.
Oh,
word for word,
shit.
bar for bar.
Oh,
Don't act like I
shit.
didn't make Drake, nigga. Don't do that.
Mind fucking
Wow.
blown.
Don't do
He made Drake.
that, nigga. I
shit.
was son niggas in a heartbeat. Don't
Oh,
do
wow.
that.
Shit.
Drake, Aubrey? The nigga with who I made nigga we made it with in 2014?
we made.
Wow.
Don't do that.
Has he ever reached out to you?
Drake?
Yeah.
I talk to Drake all the time. Yo, who y'all think I am in here?
Damn.
Wow.
Y'all niggas crazy.
But
bro.
people can say that
Yo,
you
I'ma
got,
see- let me see
you
the
got
link.
your nickname
Nah.
from Drake, though.
Oh, what? Draco?
Draco.
No, nigga. My first name is Dre. My middle name is Cortez. The first name of my name is Dre. The first 2 letters is C-O. Draco.
Ooh.
There you go.
And he only started calling himself Young Draco when every fucking other artist was saying the word Draco in their songs. And Draco is like a type of AK-47. So once that got popular to say, he started calling himself Young Draco.
Balls on your ass.
I'm finna show you the movie. I'm finna show you the movie.
What I'm talking about.
Fucking Big Draco, nigga. You better show some goddamn
Who number I
respect.
send it to? What's your number? Who got a number?
I ain't giving you my number, nigga. I don't want you bothering me. Hey, B, what's your number? It's the last nigga I want
Somebody,
FaceTiming me.
I want y'all to just start. I want y'all to watch just like a minute of the movie. Probably.
Yeah.
Just tell me what y'all think.
Well, last before,
put it on
before
the
you do
iPad.
that. Schoolboy Q's looking for you. You know that,
Who I'm
right?
texting? Who I'm texting? Shout out Schoolboy Q. He just didn't.
Which just brings us to oh my god, and oh my god, which brings us. Which brings us to this shit. Which brings us to this.
Go, get on camera, nigga. What's happening, nigga? Get on camera, nigga.
Pull
What's up, nigga? What
you put who on? Nigga? You put who on? Nigga, I put you on, fuck, nigga. Hey, you came to my house, you was SODMG before you sound rich kid, bitch. And that's facts, nigga. You can't come to Chicago no more, bro. You a bitch, nigga. That's facts, nigga. Hey, stop doing coke, nigga. I want to beat your ass, nigga. I want to beat your ass, nigga. What you want to do then? Nigga, what you want to do, nigga? Say you put me on, nigga, on my mama, nigga. You a bitch. You a fan, nigga. You a fan. Fuck, nigga.
Who does this?
It's up there, nigga, on my mama, nigga. You a bitch. Go get your chain back. Go get your chain.
I think both of them know what the hell they're doing. They're not being serious right now.
Back. Go get your chain back. Go get your chain back. Go get your chain back. You stop wearing the fake chains. Go get your chain back. Stop wearing the fake chains. Go get your chain back. Stop wearing the fake chains. Go get your chain back. Hey, look, when I see you, go get your chain back. You ain't gonna do shit, nigga. On my mama, you ain't gonna do shit, nigga. Nigga, on my mama, you ain't gonna do shit, nigga. Nigga, on my mama, you ain't gonna do shit, boy. Boy, you ain't gonna do shit, boy. Cokehead ass. Boy, you ain't gonna do shit, boy. Hey, when I see you, I got your bitch ass up. I got your address. Shut your bitch ass up. I'm beating your bitch ass up. You a hoe. Nigga, your mama a hoe. Nigga, what's happening? You a hoe. Fuck, nigga. You a crackhead, nigga. You a junkie, nigga. I'm smacking the fuck out you. Shut your bitch ass up. I ain't no junkie, you bomb, you cokehead ass. Shut your bitch ass up, nigga. I got your address, bitch. Nigga, I don't give a fuck. Pull up, nigga. Pull your bitch ass up, then. Yeah, pull your bitch ass up, nigga. Pull up, nigga. Hey, I ain't gonna argue with your cokehead ass. You a cokehead. Yeah, you do ecstasy pills, nigga. Put your hands on me like you did your girl. Your girl, nigga, I'll beat your ass, yeah. Fuck, nigga, get up out of here. Pussy ass, nigga, I ain't scared of no fighters' dicks.
Caps. You see the caps? Man, you see this shit? The lies, bruh, the lies. Anyways, I think you get the picture. Speaking of drugs, let's talk about Cuomo. Governor Cuomo of New York State, my fucking state, he wants to legalize marijuana.
I believe
this is a good thing, right? This is a good thing, right? This is a good thing, right? We're gonna keep. We're gonna end this system of jailing non-white folk for petty drug crimes, right? It's good. But being the Democratic Party, there's going to be a lot of taxes and regulations that go along with that. So let's see what Cuomo has to say.
Get done in this legislative session is going to make history in the state of New York and is going to make history in the nation.
Perhaps most interesting to New Yorkers are details about congestion pricing and how Governor Cuomo suggests fixing the failing subway. The governor believes charging a fee for any car driving in Manhattan below 60th Street will raise $15 billion. But that'll still leave at least $25 billion in a funding gap to completely repair and upgrade the subway. So,
I propose a 50-50 revenue split between New York City and New York State.
Mayor Bill de Blasio and city leaders have said repeatedly that's unlikely to happen, and it's the state's job to pay for the MTA. Governor Cuomo also spent a lot of time talking about how the state can no longer send most of its money to struggling school districts, just hoping that the poorest performing schools themselves would actually get that money.
The education equity formula, which will distribute the money not just to the poorer districts, but to the poorer schools in the poorer districts, and let's end those funding disparities once and for all.
Among other issues, Governor Cuomo wants to see Roe v. Wade made statewide law, ban single-use plastic bags because of environmental concerns, and legalize recreational marijuana as a
Ban plastic bags. Interesting. I mean, listen. I'm conflicted because, you know, that's passing on the expenses to businesses who are already struggling, but also there's just so much fucking plastic in the ocean and just plastic everywhere that's not getting recycled. We do need to do something about that, or else we won't have a fucking planet to live on.
Criminal justice reform issue.
Let's create an industry that empowers the poor communities that paid the price and not the rich corporations who come in to make
It sounds good, but there's a difference between rhetoric and policy. We'll only really know once everything's in place who will benefit.
a profit.
By the way, Mayor de Blasio just spent about 17 minutes responding to primarily the governor's comments on MTA funding. And what he says is he doesn't think either the city or the state should be spending billions of dollars. He's looking for a complete dedicated funding source to fund the MTA. So already some serious disagreement there as we head into this transportation funding debate. By the way, Cuomo wants a middle-class tax cut despite all of these priorities and paying for all of these priorities.
I mean, the MTA is a whole other story. They need to audit the MTA first and make sure that they are using their money correctly, because they, I feel, embezzle a lot of money, the MTA. Let's see here. There's another video about this new development.
Cuomo would prohibit sale of pot to anyone under 21, allow localities against marijuana legalization. Albany U. If the state legalizes marijuana, government. Cuomo wants to. Cuomo, during a Monday, was interviewed on Upstate Public Radio's The Capital Connection, provided a few more details a day ahead. He unveiled his state budget proposal that will include his marijuana legalization plan. In addition to the age limit, which was recommended last year by a panel Cuomo put together to study the issue, the governor said his plan would allow localities that don't want to legalize pot to opt out if they so desire. He also indicated he wants small businesses from communities that were hit hardest by the war on drugs to benefit rather than have these rich corporations come in.
To his credit, or to whoever politicians' credit, marijuana use has been somewhat decriminalized already in New York City. I can say for sure. I don't know about the rest of the state, but and also stop and frisk seems to have been eliminated. You know, I mean, they officially announced that a few years ago, but you know, it seems like it's gotten a little bit better that police are, you know, police aren't as aggressive. It would seem, I could be wrong, but from my personal experience and from what I hear and what I know, it seems to be getting a lot better, and also the crime is going down a lot in New York City. Let's see what else this video has to say here.
And having another payday, Cuomo in 2017 called pot a gateway drug, now says the state needs to move forward and legalize it, given the fact that Canada and Massachusetts, which both border New York, have already done so, and New Jersey is moving toward it.
Yeah, I mean, that was one indicator where I was like, okay, New York has to legalize soon, because if Boston's already legal, then that's a lot of competition right there. Because, like, for example, let's say you want to do your bachelor party. You love smoking weed, but weed is not legal in New York City, but it's legal in Boston. You're gonna maybe take a trip out to Boston and do it in Boston, right? You know, number of different situations like that. It's creating a lot of competition for our economy. So you know, it's basically a long time coming. The entire United States needs to legalize.
It's not really a question anymore of should you do it, Cuomo said. We're sort of past. He likened it to New York's decision several years ago to legalize casino gambling after it had cropped up all across the country, including in the Northeast. The recreational sale of marijuana is here, he said. Cuomo said he believes legalization can generate $300 million in revenue for the state.
Probably more than that.
The governor's office provided no more details on what his plan for pot will include. A Siena College poll released Monday morning showed that 56% of those surveyed support the legalization of recreational marijuana, while 41% oppose it. The governor over the weekend announced his budget plan will include proposals to prohibit statewide the sale of cigarettes and e-cigarettes to anyone under 21, up from 18, and to outlaw plastic shopping bags. During his Monday radio interview, Cuomo said he expects some who are 18 will complain that they are adults and can make their own choices. But we know this can kill you, he said. If we can help our youth.
There's actually a few more things, a few more details that those videos did not cover. Because they actually announced like they actually said how much percentage they would be taxing. Let's see if we can get that information real quick if we zoom in here real quick. Let's see. $20 tax. $1 per gram. 25 cents per gram of trim. But it's actually a little more than that because they're taxing the business. They're so it'll add a few dollars to what you're normally used to paying on the black market. Also part of this deal is that only people with who have been medically prescribed marijuana to treat their physical ailments or caregivers of those people are allowed to grow marijuana. Which I think is a mistake. Like, it should be open to everybody. But I don't imagine it's going to be hard to get prescribed, going by, how it is in how it was in California before it was completely legalized. It's not hard to get a prescription. So, once it's legalized, I'm getting my prescription. I'm growing my own shit. I'm not gonna fucking pay no 20% tax. If it's gonna be more expensive than what I'm already paying, I'm not gonna fucking buy that shit. I'm gonna fucking grow that shit myself. Anyways, man, I have some other stuff here that, matter of fact, I might as well just open it up on here. Because we have so much to talk about today. Just throw this over here for a second. Okay, I think we're going to talk about. We're going to be talking about the Gillette commercial. Now, I haven't seen the actual Gillette commercial
Mr. Man can get.
Like, I've just seen like the outcry about it and everything. And from what I understand, even without watching it, what I understand is that those who are for and against it both have a point. As they say, there's always two sides to every story. But let's watch it from the beginning, and you know, I haven't seen it before, so let's see. Let's see what I think about it after we watch the full thing right now. Okay.
Bullying.
The Me Too movement against sexual harassment.
Masculinity.
Is this the best a man can get?
And the whole thing about toxic masculinity, you know, I understand it, but whenever someone talks about toxic masculinity, they don't talk about female, you know, toxic femininity, because that is a thing. That is very much a thing. Anyone can be toxic. So to kind of imply that only men can be toxic is already disingenuous. If you're going to talk about toxic masculinity, you need to talk about toxic femininity, or just generalize it to toxic humanity. So that's the first mistake of this commercial, and just about anyone who brings up toxic masculinity, because you got to bring up toxic femininity as well.
Is it? We can't hide from it.
Sexual harassment is taking over.
It's been going on far too long. We can't laugh it off.
Who's the daddy?
What I actually think she's trying to say.
Making the same old excuses.
Boys will be boys. Boys will be boys. Boys will be boys.
But something finally changed.
Allegations regarding sexual assault and sexual harassment.
But she says
That's funny that they put Anna Kasparian in this, because she's an example of toxic femininity right there, homie. Real quick, let me just see something real quick. Anna Kasparian outburst. Oh, well, the one that comes to mind. Where is that? Okay, here it is.
What, the Saudi Arabians are funny enough, you little jihad? Hey, first of all, let me explain something, all right? Bullshit. Hold on. We're against Saudi Arabia, you dumbass! We talk about that all the time! We talk about that all the time! Shit! What, you think the lizard people are in charge? No. Is that what you think?
Now your pissed we're kicking their ass.
Is that what you think?
You're the anti-liberal and you're pissed.
Bullshit!
We're being nice here.
You know what I care
You're the
about?
one flipping out.
I care about the American people.
Good. You're the one flipping out. Anybody hurt anything? I'm not worried.
Everyone get the fuck off my stage!
Get out of here. Okay,
She's right here.
You're the ones that got it. Hey, Alex, security's here.
I got it.
Thank you so much.
All right. That is the craziest shit I've ever seen. They just
Oh, shut the fuck up, you loser.
Stop.
Hey, unless you're staff, clear there.
Okay, I think now I'm looking for the part where she calls Alex Jones a fat bitch or something like that.
All right, we're back on the Young Turks. Obviously, a little bit of commotion here as Alex Jones and a guy significantly worse than him entered the stage here.
What changes in demographics is that he wins white males. How you
Good to
doing?
see you, man. You're looking sexy.
All right.
Hey, how's the revolution going? You guys starting the revolution?
We are indeed, Alex.
It's like one of the
The revolution is
funniest
afoot.
shits
Welcome to the Young Turks.
The overthrow of America is not.
I am going to restore American democracy along with progressives and conservatives in this country.
All right. Well, I gotta tell you, I am really, really proud to be here with you. It's good to meet you in person.
I don't think
How are you guys doing?
We're doing okay.
You like all our Hillary for President shirts everywhere?
No, I kind of despise it.
What shirts are they? I haven't seen any of them.
You haven't seen? Oh my God! You didn't see me? I don't exist. If you didn't see me,
I'm not.
All right, guys. Okay. Here,
look at this. I got a new shirt for you right here. It's rape. It's Bill Clinton says rape. Oh God, hide that immediately. That's the big no that Roger Stone's banned.
All right, you want to take my show over? I'll take your show over.
Go ahead.
Okay, you know what? Who does this kind of shirt? First of all, a sick guy. Second of all,
Bill Clinton's not a rapist, folks.
No, you know who's accused in court papers. You know who's accused in court papers of being a rapist? Donald J. Trump. Donald Trump, Roger Stone. You know that. It's in court papers. Oh yeah. And you're a sick dude, Roger Stone.
Hey, I want to have a rant off with you right now.
You assault me all the time. You never give me a chance to respond.
Oh, you know, I should give you a hatchet job. A job there. You're a sick man, Roger Stone.
Roger,
no, you're the world's biggest liar. Didn't you admit that you lied about Elliot Spitzer? Didn't you already admit that?
You're not afraid of him, are you? You're not afraid of him. Get him in here.
And first of all, Alex, this ain't your fucking show.
I know.
Okay, and Roger, it surely ain't your fucking show.
Are you afraid to debate him?
Okay, afraid? Are you kidding me? No.
Oh man, where's the part? Oh, this is the Young Turks channel, so of course they wouldn't show. Damn, where's the part that he calls him a bitch? Man, did they just like wipe this off of YouTube or what? Yo, it's like they wiped it off of YouTube or something. Whatever. Is it here?
World's biggest liar. Didn't you admit that you lied about Elliot? Get up here right now. Didn't you already admit that you piece of crap? You're a piece of crap. They wanted to be the serious. All you do is lie.
I think it's right here. You fat fuck! You heard that? Oh, let me turn that up. Eee! Isn't that toxic? And the funny thing is, she did like a segment about let's see, fat shaming.
And he seems to be taking up a lot of room. In fact,
I love how Anna's trying to be polite about it. Let's go to the picture. He seems to be taking up a lot of room.
Hold on. Did she do like a... Let's see.
and a lot of the people that are picking on him for his weight gain aren't really lookers themselves.
Yeah.
Get off the stage, you fat fuck! Oh, and it's the classic bullying move where you want to feel better about yourself, so you look to someone and pick on their imperfections to feel good about yourself. It's stupid. Get off the stage, you fat fuck! You fat fuck! She strikes me as someone who's actually trying to make a very serious and very terrible statement about overweight people. Get off the stage, you fat fuck! Look, I think that if someone that cares about you tells you, like, hey, let's get healthy together, it's not fat shaming. You know, fat shaming is pointing a finger at you and being like, you're fat. Get off the stage, you fat fuck! I think that this study is really fascinating because, I mean, I can relate to it big time because when I was about 4 years old, my dance instructor told me that I was overweight. And as a 4? Yes, and that stayed with me for the rest of my life. Now, I don't fit the results of the study. I'm not in an unhealthy body weight. At least I don't think I am. But you know, it does scar you, and you have issues with food and eating for the rest of your life. Get off the stage, you fat fuck!
So yeah, is that toxic femininity? I don't know. It seems like it might be, right?
And there will be no going back. Because we believe in the best in men.
Men need to hold.
What is you gotta wonder, what is the purpose of this ad Because Gillette's biggest customers are men. So what is the purpose? You know, why would a company try to make this kind of statement? You know, like, what are you, like an activist group? You know, your company, your main goal is to sell things to men. That's like your biggest thing. Sell things to people. And then you're going to demonize people? I mean, most companies don't care who they're selling things to as long as people are buying them. That's how you fucking get ahead, is by, you know, as a company, you're selling things. You sell as much as you can. Apple does not care who they're selling iPhones to. They'll sell iPhones to Kim Jong-un. They'll sell iPhones to fucking the Shah of Iran. They'll fucking sell iPhones to whoever the hell. They don't care. They're making that money. So what is the benefit here for Gillette? I don't know.
Hold other men accountable.
Smile, sweetie.
Come on.
To say the right thing. To act the right way.
Bro, not cool.
Some
so this was
already
a
are.
part that was
way.
This was a part that was very contentious. Let's go back a little bit here.
Best in men.
Men need to hold other men accountable.
Smile, sweetie.
Come on.
To say the right thing.
Smile, sweetie. So one argument that I heard about this was that is this teaching women that, you know, they can't? Is this giving the message that women can't defend themselves? And that you need another man to step in and, you know, handle the situation for them? Is that what this is? That what this is?
To act the right way.
So he sees a hot girl walking down the street. He's like, bro, like, okay. So he's gonna go try to talk to her, right? Obviously, coming from behind is not the way to do it. But don't most women want a guy to approach them? Even in 2019, don't most women want a guy to approach them? This ad is telling you it's not cool to approach women you find attractive. This scene right here. And this is the most contentious part. So I agree that men can be toxic. Women can be toxic too. They are, you know, for example, the gas station, the gas station bros. Oh shit, this is the exact same video that I was thinking about.
We're not gonna touch you. I think you came here for me.
We applying pressure around this motherfucker. Bitch definitely gonna get sweated around this motherfucker. Yeah, bitch, you came to a circle full of pimps. Bitch, you finna get it too, ho. Oh, the bitch made it through.
I had seen this on Facebook, and like, this is a prime example of toxic masculinity. You know, just a bunch of guys like, you know, exhibiting predatory behavior, you know, in a pack, fucking surrounding this woman. And you know, one of the messed up things about it too is that she's just kind of just smiling and you know, laughing along. The person who posted this on Facebook was arguing that, you know, this is just a defense mechanism to get out of the way, to, like, you know, not upset these guys. And, you know, that's understandable that, you know, you're scared. You got to be scared, like, around all these dudes. Like, I would be scared around a bunch of dudes if they were all giving me their attention. You know, even as a guy, I'd be like, yo, what the fuck? Like this is too much. You know, but at the same time, you know, could she have handled it better? And I'm not trying to blame the victim, but I just don't think, in my mind, in my opinion, that I just don't think that smiling and laughing, thinking, you know, is giving the wrong signal. Because when someone smiles at you, it's a positive thing. You're like, oh, maybe what I'm doing is right. Maybe what I'm doing is, nice. Maybe she's, maybe I'll get that number or whatever.
She made it through. She broke through the barrier. Hold on, ho.
But at the same time, what these guys are doing are definitely wrong. I mean, you shouldn't even be hanging around a gas station anyway. What are these guys hanging around the gas station for? Do they even have a car? Does any of them even have a car? Or they just go there to buy the blunt wrap and chill? And this is nothing against black people or non-white people, because white guys can do the same thing and have done the same thing. We're talking about men and women here.
Pressure being applied around here. It's some real pimping though, bitch. Oh, the hoe act like she never been called a bitch before, huh?
I would have tried saying like, hey, I'm married, I have a boyfriend, or she could even say like I'm a lesbian, or I don't know. You gotta say something.
You ain't gotta worry about gas. He got you already. You know what I'm saying? I got a long tank. Let's have it. She don't really breathe. That's number one, baby. Yeah, number one. See, that's what I'm trying to tell you.
All right.
And there's a part 2 where they actually are sitting on her car and like basically stopping her from leaving.
I almost forgot to respond to this because I've been pushing it aside because I found this very aggravating and very frustrating. But you all wanted my response to this. The very first time that I saw this, the only thought that kept coming to my mind is, this is why they spray you down in the street like roaches. This is why right there. But you know what? I decided to come at it from a different standpoint. And first, let me give my intro. I'm Tanya TKO. I'm a self-love specialist from TanyaTKO.com. I help you learn to love yourself and each other. Let's jump into this video. Let me ask you all this question, because you all want to know what my point of view on this is. I want men to come forward and speak up. God darn it, speak up. It's like men are constantly like, oh, stop bashing us. Oh, you're ragging on us. Oh, Tanya, you're not like men. Oh! But I want to know, you want to know what I have to say? I want to know what men have to say about this. Brothers, please come forward and speak up with how you feel about this situation. Let the sisters hear you speak. Please. I have so many questions, so let me ask some of the questions that I have. Okay. One of the things that...
I can say, one of the things that's probably, that's influenced this kind of behavior is that, a lot of those guys, probably most of those guys, did not grow up around their father, and it sounds like I'm being stereotyping or being racist, but that's like a common, well-known thing in the black community, is because of our criminal justice system, because of the way things are stacked up against non-white people historically, especially, if you look at the 80s with those drug policies and just like, oh man, like, just racism and things like that, it's way bigger struggle. It's a way bigger struggle to grow up as a black man than a white man in this country. The lighter your skin is, the more likely you are to, the easier it is for you. And while I also believe that, anyone can make it. Anyone can, if they work hard enough, can make it. But it's undeniable that if you're in a certain group, it's going to be harder for you. And so you've got a lot of brown and black boys growing up without their father. My father, my parents got divorced when I was like 2 years old, and my father didn't completely disappear. And he's white, by the way. He didn't completely disappear, but I would see him on the weekends and stuff like that. But I still feel it wasn't enough because he wasn't there on a day-to-day basis. Like, we'd, on the weekends as a kid, we'd go eat something, we'd go to the movies, like there wasn't enough times where he was there when I needed him, where, you know, we would work on something together, where, you know, teach me different things. Like, there wasn't, when you only see your son a day or two out of the week, that, you know, what are you doing during that time? It's just, you know, fun stuff, because, you know, you only get to see him a couple of days out of the week. You're not, you know, there's less of the disciplining, there's less of the learning aspect of fatherhood that you would need. Also, you're missing out on the interaction between mom and dad at home. That's how you learn how to respect women and treat women, is by seeing the interaction between mom and dad at home. If you don't have that interaction, you know, you're kind of left to your own devices, and then you gather around other kids that are in similar situations, and you know, you just learn like this juvenile way of thinking about women, you know, especially when you're going through puberty and adolescence. You just letting these wild urges run your existence and inform the way that you should be acting around women.
The second things that I thought, first thing that I thought was, that's why the police spray them down. I was talking about the police spray them down in the street like roaches. This is why, right here, because of how animalistic that they act out there. That was the first thing that I thought. Second thing that I thought was was this woman born female? And how would they then behave if in the process of this malarkey they discovered that this woman who they were giving their unwanted attention to happened to turn out to not be female at birth?
I would unfortunately, I would assume that if this girl did say she was a tranny, they might want to like smack her or some shit. Might want to get violent, you know, because then like they kind of would conflict with their own idea of manhood. And yeah, that's a good question, though. That is a good question.
She's female now. That was the second thing that I thought. Third thing that I thought was how if this woman had a gun on her and she started bucking shots at them, that they would think that she was wrong. Fourth thing that I thought was, if she had opened up her mouth to cuss at them, what violence may have ensued. We all know about I was with a young lady at a club who there was a guy who didn't like the way that she didn't kowtow or cater to him. And he slapped her right there in front of me. I was there. And then he ran back into the club so that and then the security guard was right there and wouldn't allow us to really get in to handle this situation with this man. The security guard enabled him to get away with this assault. And so the fourth thing that I thought was how you see how this girl is smiling. Some of the comments that I saw on the internet were like, oh, she's having a good time. What is the alternative? So many girls are socialized to be afraid of the violence of men, especially black men, so that they know that they have to be agreeable even in high pressure situations that they do not feel like being in. Let me ask you this. Is that girl heterosexual? Does she even like men? Does she have a child waiting for her at home? Is she in a relationship already where she's happy? It's like, this woman is not your property. She is not yours for the taking. She may not even like penis, but does that matter to any of them? And let me ask you this. Is there anybody here that is confused about whether or not this little woman that looks like she weighs about 110 pounds, fully dressed with boots on, does anybody here think that she's stronger than the men around her? Individually, one-on-one. Does anybody here who thinks she's stronger than them one-on-one? And is there anybody here who thinks that she's stronger than a group of them who have ganged up on her like a pack of wild, rabid dogs? Is there anybody here who thinks that she would be able to fight her way out of this situation? That's one of the things that I thought. Because if she weren't like, let me just run around and be pleasant. If she was like, get the F up out of my face. Because if a group of men surrounded me like that, it would be a problem. It would be a problem. And this is the type of thing that makes me feel like just walking around armed. So then I just reach down into my purse and just start bucking off shots at these damn fools. This is
part of the reason why I feel like, the Second Amendment is important. People would respect, an armed society is a polite society. People will respect you if they know that, there's a good chance you have a gun. If this woman had a gun and just shot a warning shot, maybe these guys would back off. Who knows? Maybe they wouldn't feel comfortable congregating around a gas station in the first place. I mean, I think at the very minimum, women should carry some mace around. Because, she just go shh and then just fucking back off.
This behavior, a wild...
But, I mean, I'm not trying to excuse their behavior. I mean, this is just... it's disgusting behavior. It's just like, degeneracy, just self-destruction, fucking, this is not what men are supposed to be.
Pack of them ganged up at the doggone gas station. She'd be wrong if she shot one of them in the damn belly and then he had to lay down on the ground and bleed out, right? It's like, why are they cornering this woman, stopping her from being able to walk and go around? This is part of the reason I haven't spoken about this video before, because it's so aggravating. I found this aggravating, and I find it embarrassing as a black woman who is expected to come forth on the media and defend these people, these black men. I'm supposed to get up and defend them. And it's like, I'm tired. I'm tired. I want black men to come forward and check other black men. Because how many times have I been...
So, we're not going to get too deep into that video if you want to see that, but going back to the Gillette video, so, in this shot, he sees the girl walking by, and he's just like, hey.
Way.
So, this guy physically touches this guy to hold him back. I don't know. Are they friends? It would seem that they are friends. But does this give the message that maybe it's okay for one guy to hold back another guy, like if they don't know each other? Because that's assault. If he did not consent to him touching him, that's assault. So will we see more guys jumping in the way of other guys who are just trying to talk to women? Is that what we're going to see? Because that's going to cause a lot of problems, right? But going back to this, that, the idea that women do want to be approached. They expect to be approached by men that they're interested in. That is in our DNA. Very, very few women approach men. Maybe it's becoming more and more common now, but it's still a very rare thing. A lot of women still, despite new wave feminism and all that, women still have traditional expectations of men. They still look at men as providers, as someone who should be leading. There's that meme of women not being able to decide what they want to eat or whatever, because it's the guy who's expected, maybe subconsciously, to direct things, to lead things. A lot of women still look at that, right? And so that when we are telling men through ads like this, through programming like this, through social engineering like this, it could give the message that it's not okay to approach women. It's not okay to so how the hell do you hook up with women then? And so it's Gillette was a little bit sloppy in this message here. So some of the things, like the earlier parts about bullying and stuff, it's like, okay, I understand, but this right here has been like the most contentious one right there. most contentious part. It's mixing in facts with lies. Going back to that theme of what's going on now in society, where with the meme culture and just the way things are marketed now, it's like you taking extremes, you're putting it together, lies and facts, and it's just what are you left to believe?
Not cool. Not cool.
Some already are. In ways big
Yo, men,
and small.
I am strong.
But some is not enough.
It's not how we treat each other, okay?
Because the boys watching today will be the men of tomorrow.
So I think overall, I think it has a good message, because toxic masculinity is real, but also toxic femininity is real. Where are the commercials addressing toxic femininity? What is this?
Bullying.
The Me Too movement against sexual
Toxic
harassment.
masculinity.
Is this the best a man can get? Is it? We can't hide from it.
Hello ladies. It's time for us to take a look in the mirror. This is what toxic femininity looks like to others.
Get up! I told you to get up. Look at that ass!
I need Julie to put a jacket on.
tushy,
We're all in white. I asked her before we came on. Julie, you need to put a jacket on. Come on, I told you 2 hours ago. We know
Amber,
in chat room.
this is not. So I'm sorry. I've been flat out.
Well,
I'm out of here.
It is an issue. Go and grab a jacket.
We have hid behind the phrase that women are the fairer sex for too long. It's time to take responsibility for own actions. We have our own toxic traits that we need to address. It takes a strong woman to stand up and call it out.
Bullying other women at workplace is such a common occurrence, but it hardly gets spoken about. In social spaces, female bosses are sometimes infamous for ill-treating their subordinates instead of supporting them.
But it's not just men who create barriers. Researchers say sometimes it's women.
A 2012 George Mason University study showed when a workplace has few women, those women help each other less.
Women are less supportive of other women.
A 2014 survey by Workplace Bullying Institute found when women bully, their target is another woman 68% of the time.
For some reason, in my experience, women don't always support women.
We laugh at others for how they look.
Fat shaming is not a thing. Fat people made that up.
Should you be in here? You shouldn't even be in here, mate. Why don't you just leave now? Do yourself a favour. You're so fat already.
We are able to tell the most heinous lies that destroy other people's lives.
Is now accused of making it all up.
Mark Pearson was making his way back home during a busy commute when he passed a complete.
Oh man, the way some women abuse the legal system with false accusations is a huge part of toxic femininity, because the court system favors women. Just look at custody cases. Women get the child the majority of the time, unless they're proven to be like fucking completely batshit crazy.
Stranger. In that split second, his life changed forever after she falsely accused him of sexual assault.
Well, the woman who was at the center of the false rape allegations that were brought against 3 Duke University athletes may now be facing a murder charge.
He actually punched me like a boxer would punch a back.
But when I looked back on that footage as soon as I left the house, it was the first thing I did was view that clip, and I got it wrong.
The prosecutor has charged the alleged victim, accusing her of making up the allegations in an attempt to ruin the deputy's career.
We are just as capable of murdering our partners, our family, and worst of all, our children.
Sons in the oven and turned it on.
A judge on Wednesday sentenced a Utah mom to prison for up to 30 years for killing her 17-month-old daughter Jaslyn after giving her an overdose of methadone.
Story of a young woman now at the center of a brutal murder case. The alleged victim, her own mother.
We kill our biological children at a greater rate than men. This is a problem us women need to resolve.
A mother was sentenced to life in prison on Monday for slitting the throats and stabbing her 3 daughters at their home.
We can be cruel, cold, and calculative.
In private, you already know it works. She actually begins to almost agree with him. Like, okay, so you want to kill yourself? When are you going to do it? How are you going to do it?
You're really gonna do this?
Yeah.
Okay, there's no turning back now.
Starting about on July 2nd, she started saying, "Are you serious? Like, you should just do it."
In early July, after Conrad apparently fails to go through with an overdose of sleeping pills, police say Michelle seems not relieved, but irritated.
I remember this story.
I knew you weren't gonna try hard. I feel like such an idiot.
Why?
Because you didn't even do anything. And I poured my heart out to you thinking this was gonna be the last time I talked to you. I thought you really wanted to die, but apparently you don't. I feel played and just stupid.
We can be manipulative and nasty to one another.
What the fuck? You hurt my feelings. I thought you were going to kill yourself. What the fuck?
Well, just on the topic of sort of online abuse that women receive, I receive a lot of it too. 75% of it, I would say, comes from women who are feminists, and quite a few from you, plenty, I believe, over a 2-month period. It wasn't just February 6th when I was on Q&A. It went on for a little while, so that it got particularly bad in March over an article that I wrote about the late, great Bill Leak, where you set your 70,000 Twitter followers on me along with Dee Madigan and made comments on everything, to my appearance, to my upbringing.
We are just as capable of starting wars, and we send our husbands, brothers and sons off to fight them.
British sovereign territory has been invaded by a foreign power. It is a government's objective to see that the islands are freed from occupation and are returned to British administration at the earliest possible moment.
We laugh at those who have suffered similar pain as we have.
A 3-story flat, and I've had to jump off a 3-story balcony. I ripped all my back, all my legs, still not, and I ended up in hospital, because she won't let me out of the house.
It's not funny though. Can I tell you why it's not funny? I don't want to upset any of the audience because I completely appreciate the fact that you're here, but I'll tell you why I don't think you should laugh. If this was the other way around and a woman was sat here and a bloke had locked her in a flat and she had to jump out and injured herself, you lot would not be laughing. You would be saying, he's a complete nightmare, he should be locked up and that's disgraceful. But somehow, if it happens to a bloke, that's funny. That's not funny, is it?
That, that is a good point in that, people are less hesitant to give men sympathy, they're more hesitant to give men sympathy, more likely to, to not take their feelings seriously, because that's just been part of the societal culture, that men don't have emotions, that they don't cry, that but we have emotions just like everybody else.
We have our own problems. Good women need to stand up and call bad behaviors out. We need to learn to be better people ourselves before we judge others. Are we really being the best we can be? I feel we can be better.
Whew, man. Whew. So I think we kind of got the idea there. We've got some other topics we got to get to. But wait a second. Was there an article I needed to? Okay, so this is seems to be part of a because whether you believe it or not, social engineering exists. What is social engineering? Let's first go to the definition so that you guys can know, because I know most of you maybe have not heard of the idea of social engineering. Social engineering, the use of centralized planning in an attempt to manage social change and regulate the future development and behavior of a society. It can also be considered as part of information security, the use of deception to manipulate individuals into divulging confidential or personal information that may be used for fraudulent purposes. But we're talking about the first definition, centralized planning. Basically, there seems to be an agenda, an anti-male agenda. Well, basically an anti-family agenda, because people are more loyal to their family than they are to the state, to the government. And if the idea is, if you eliminate the family, you can more easily control people. Just like in Brave New World, Aldous Huxley wrote a book called Brave New World, where the family was eliminated and the state was your daddy. The state was your mommy. And it's, it seems like we're going in that direction. Because, not only with things like the Gillette ad, but you can see in other parts of society also, let's look at this. Why men are the new college minority. So if you didn't know, participation rates, attendance rates for men in college are on a heavy decline. This is from 2017 in The Atlantic. And, a lot of these articles, they point to the idea that men are less likely to conform, to sit down and pay attention. They want to go out, they want to do different things, and we can get into the whole theme of how education is really the way it is now is a form of it's more focused on having you conform with society than anything else. They don't teach you critical thinking in school until you get to college. They don't, and even nowadays in a lot of colleges, critical thinking is, falling by the wayside, because a lot of colleges now are run by Marxist professors, and it's they're more and more ideological. Like, for example, Berkeley or those other colleges that have banned conservative speakers. And colleges are supposed to be, the bastion of free speech. So even if you don't agree with someone, you should be allowing, if there's a group of students that want to have somebody come speak, you should just let them come speak. And I feel like if you martyr somebody, their message is going to become stronger anyway. And if you really want to go against a certain ideology, it's best to learn about that ideology first. Learn about your enemies in order to destroy them, right? So all these things, right? So anyways, women outnumber men by more than 6 to 1 here at Carlow University. Okay, women comprise about 56%. According to this wall, women will comprise more than 56% of students on campuses nationwide, according to the U.S. Department of Education. So when people talk about the gender gap, this is what the first thing I think about is that in the education system, men are on the decline. Okay, so what is that? What kind of future is that making? Well, that's going to eventually, I think, make a future where you're going to see more women in CEO positions at the top of companies and things like that. And also, when you think about the gender gap, people like to tout that number that's like women make 80% of what men make. But what they don't consider is that men work more hours than women, And women go on maternity leave. Sorry, I've been talking for almost 2 hours straight already. Okay, so men say they work more than women. Here's the truth. Another year. Makes the annual report, which breaks down collecting name, devoting more life to paid labor. Also, men work more dangerous jobs, and dangerous jobs tend to pay more. Let's see. Also, Vox says that it's more of a child penalty, the gender gap. True cause of the gender wage gap is really a child care penalty. Even in Denmark, so it's not just something in the United States, also in Denmark as well. And it's hard for a company to say, okay, we're going to pay you maternity leave, because it's expensive. I mean, not every company can afford that, especially small businesses. And more women do childcare and do more work at home and things like that. So anyways, it's a complicated issue. A lot of progressives will point to discrimination. They'll say, hey, this is all gender discrimination. This isn't, this is, they won't look at this other data here. So I can understand why some people think that there's an attack on masculinity, because especially when you think about also the promotion of LGBTQ and things like that, that's being forced on children at a young age.
A family can
we
be.
got this famous, these videos of men in drag reading bedtime
Made up
children's stories
in many different ways.
It's called SOGI, for Sexual Orientation and Gender Identification, a curriculum that teaches public school students across Canada to celebrate the homosexual lifestyle and that gender is fluid. In other words, your gender is not dependent on what parts you were born with, but rather what you feel like.
So I don't think this kind of stuff should be taught to kids. I think this is something that might confuse kids. They might, think maybe I'm really a girl, and then when they're, in their 30s, they realize, oh man, I made a huge mistake. And we'll look at a video of transgender who've changed their mind later in their life.
In the moment.
There's people that are boys, there's people that are girls. There are people whose gender might be a little bit of both or might even be neither.
Lessons include books about transgender children, such as 10,000 Dresses, and songs like The Rainbow Song.
Gender won't decide the choices we make. Some boys like dressing up, some girls like catching snakes.
The SOGI curriculum started in British Columbia in 2016 and is quickly spreading throughout Canada.
I just thought, who decided that this was okay to teach our children?
Author and inspirational speaker Laura Lynn Tyler Thompson is a leading voice against the SOGI curriculum.
And we are seeing the results of that now, because some kids are reacting very emotionally and saying, and they're in fear. Will I suddenly struggle with feeling like a different gender inside of my body?
Carrie Simpson of Culture Guard, another leading opponent, calls the curriculum nothing short of child abuse.
All those beautiful qualities that make young girls, beautiful girls and women, are being basically vilified. The things that make our boys boys are being, taken from them. So things of equating young men to being strong protectors is something that's now evil.
But Morgan Auger, a transsexual and supporter, claims it's about acceptance, not indoctrination.
The idea is to teach kids that there are gay kids and there are trans kids and there are trans parents and gay parents in our society, and everybody's wanted and desired. After all, that's what our Human Rights Code says, and it's the role of schools to teach the following of our laws, right?
Simpson disagrees, saying she sees Soji's real goal as
altering our culture from a heteronormative society into one where anything goes, no boundaries, no values, no morals. It's a hedonistic cult, basically, what they're implying.
Another blaring example, drag queen story time. It's happening in Canada and America, where some public schools and libraries invite drag queens, some dressed like horned demons, to read to young children.
And it's a social deconstructionist agenda. They're using children, little 5-year-olds, to accomplish this. And parents are waking up and saying no.
When asked about parents' rights, Auger says,
well, actually, in Canada, parents' rights are limited and children's rights are put ahead. So the child has the right to be protected from the parents when the parents behave badly.
Canada is known as one of the most gay-friendly countries in the world.
So in other words, parents have less power than the state, or state has more power than usual over your kids. And that's a big goal of, oh man, what was that lady's name? I'm sure it'll come up. She lost her show or whatever. This lady. Remember this lady?
We have never invested as much in public education as we should have because we've always had kind of a private notion of children. Your kid is yours. And
yes. Your kid is yours. You fucking created your kid. Yes. Yes. They don't belong to anyone else. You see what I mean?
That notion of children, your kid is yours and totally your responsibility. We haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children. So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities. Once it's everybody's responsibility and not just the households, then we start making better investments.
You see this shit, right? This is statism. This is communism. Your children don't belong to you. They belong to the state. Melissa Harris Perry, statist.
World, with many of their largest cities featuring their own gay villages, like here in Vancouver, which has literally rolled out the Rainbow Road.
And rainbows and all this colorful stuff is very attractive to kids. You know, kids like candy and things like that. Things are bright colors. Is it a coincidence that those, you know, is that a coincidence?
Gays like village resident Davey DiCarlo support Soji and limiting parental rights.
The change that we have to see is sometimes the parents. And the kids are doing actually really okay.
This is very scary stuff.
Longtime Vancouver area pastor Kevin Kavanaugh says this is far more serious than most Canadian Christians realize.
Our problem is not the teachers, the educators, the administrators. This is a battle in the heavenlies.
He says Satan is going after their most vulnerable, the children.
And the little girl came home in tears because the teacher had told her, since she was playing with some toys in the class that were deemed to be masculine in nature, that she was likely a boy in a girl's body. The mother went to the school the very next day, and instead of having any sort of tolerance or support or understanding, she was actually called names. She was told that she was a homophobe, that she was a bigot.
With that in mind, Tyler Thompson, Simpson, and...
Imagine a teacher. Who is qualified to say that? Imagine a teacher saying to your child, oh, you're probably not a girl. You're probably a boy in a girl's body. You know how fucked up that kid's gonna be? I remember when my doctor had said I was a chubby kid when I was younger. He said that, you know, I was obese. like medically obese. I wasn't even that fat. I was chubby, but I wasn't like fucking obese, dude. But that shit followed me throughout, well into like high school or whatever. Well, whenever I lost the weight, like eventually lost the weight, I was like, oh my God, like I'm obese, yo. I gotta lose weight. And so, things you tell kids, criticisms you tell kids when they're young, they fucking carry that shit, dude.
Pastor Kevin are spreading their message across social media and in town hall meetings. The pro-gay backlash has been fierce.
And the hatred and the anger and the bullying that came against us, even though we said, we love you, we don't take from you the opportunity and the freedom to live as you choose. We love you, but we do not agree with you.
Pastor Kevin believes Canadian Christians are in a 2 Chronicles 20 moment.
The word was this battle is not yours, Jehoshaphat. This battle is the Lord's.
And the church is beginning to prepare for what it takes to fight for our kids.
The battle between an aggressive homosexual agenda and the faith community here in Canada is far from over. But many Christian leaders say it may be the issue that causes a once sleeping church to rise up and be heard. Wendy Griffith, CBN News, Vancouver.
That's so crazy. Hold on. My lungs have been feeling funky for like the past week, like I inhaled some mold or some shit. Anyways,
you look at me now, I'm back to being who God wanted me to be as a man, and it doesn't really matter what I got between my legs because no one's going to see it anyway. And I've been reading my Bible every day, and all I could hear was God saying, well, you really need to go back to being who I made you. And your story is great, but just don't do it as a girl, because you're not a girl. And I know that. It just tears me up to think that I did all this, and I was a phony, I was a fraud, but I tried pulling it off. And people called me ma'am and she and her, and I had my long hair. I didn't wear much makeup. As you can see, I got lip liner, I had the eyebrows tattooed, which now I got to live this way, but it's a great testimony, and I just want to try to help someone else before they make the same mistake I did. Everybody I told I was getting a sex change and blah blah blah, they all said, "Oh, if that's what you think is right, then go ahead and do it. If you feel good about it, if that's what you want, go do it." And how can that happen when you're supposed to be accountable for your brothers and sisters and help them out, according to what I read? And they didn't do it. They did not do it. And to this day, they thought I was going to be a disgrace to them. That's why they didn't do anything. They just told me there's the door. I said, okay, But I always thought I needed to be important. And that's another reason, all the tattoos and the piercings, I thought, I'm going to be somebody someday. I want to be famous, But now, I do want to be famous, but I want to be famous for God. And I want to take everybody down the path that needs help. Please listen to this, because without the Lord, you'll have nothing. You'll have nothing. He's the vine and we're the branches.
This video is sponsored by me. My official merch store is now online. This is a great way to support the channel and also get an awesome shirt, hoodie. In Virginia for Christmas was meeting Joey's family for the holidays. They were all really great and showed me how to shoot guns.
Dump it! Pump a cup.
Talk about, well, I won't spoil it. Stay tuned. But the topic of today's video is one that's very taboo in the trans community for a number of reasons, and that is detransitioning. This is something that trans people never want to talk about, I guess because they want to maintain this idea that every single person who thinks they're trans just is. I think it makes them seem more valid and real in their own mind. Detransitioning is basically just what it sounds like. It's when you transition, you make bodily changes through surgeries or hormones, and then you attempt to reverse it because you realize you're not really trans. I think another reason why people never want to talk about this is because they like to maintain their position that children should be able to transition, because if you concede that an adult can make a mistake and think they're trans when they're not, clearly a child can. Kind of a no-brainer. So here's a story of a 12-year-old boy who underwent hormone therapy and then just 2 years later realized he made a huge mistake and he didn't actually want to be a girl. He's now attempting to reverse the
I'm guessing this lady's trans?
effects of hormone therapy and detransition, but he's dealing with breast growth, and obviously he halted his puberty, which is undoubtedly going to have effects on his development. There are some YouTubers as well who have taken to the internet to tell their stories.
I first started dressing as a girl when I was very young. I was 5 or 6. I learned, the person that I am, regardless of my gender, I'm okay with. I never have been able to say that I feel like I was born in the wrong body. Like, I never looked at my body and thought that it was wrong.
I believe I became very overwhelmed and tired with time and time again having to try and prove myself. It's very easy when you're in a very set up environment.
At this point in my life, I was going on a holiday, staying with friends. It was very easy to do what I was doing. It was the summertime and we had no commitments in life.
After the experiences I've had, I feel much more at ease with myself and I'm a lot more comfortable to accept me.
I was pretty and I think that it was, it was fun and it was cute for the time. Oh, I knew I wanted to be famous. That was one thing.
Now I want you to notice what all of these YouTubers seem to have in common. They're all fairly effeminate, flamboyant males, probably gay males. This is something that I see in a lot of detransitioners, naturally feminine men who mistake their femininity for needing to live as a woman, and naturally masculine women for mistaking their masculinity for needing to live as a man. What also concerns me is this seems to be the case with a lot of parents with trans kids. People who are so willing to slap the transgender label on a feminine, flamboyant little boy or a tom girl simply because they're expressing, gender rebellious behavior. Because their son likes Barbies and the color pink, or because their daughter likes trucks and roughhousing with boys. Being naturally feminine does not mean you need to transition. Being naturally masculine does not mean you need to transition. To do that is such a huge leap. Take it from me. It's a big deal. It needs to be something that's taken seriously. It's also a decision that needs to be made as an adult, because statistically speaking, this is just numbers, you're much more likely to be happy with the decision and not feel regret if you make the choice as an adult. So as with most things trans, frustratingly enough, it is hard to find
And the human brain does not finish developing until age 25, by the way.
concrete statistics, but what we do know is that the rate of detransition, transition regret among adults is relatively low. It's around 2%. So most people who make that decision as an adult end up being happy with it, they don't regret it, and they don't seek reversal surgeries. Also, what we know is that statistically, the younger you make that decision, as in if you're a child when you make it, you're more likely to regret it. The number of kids who end up regretting transition and identifying with their birth sex is around 60 to 90% depending on which study you go to. It's almost like no one really knows who they are at the age of 12.
Yikes, did she put any studies out? I would like to see those studies. That's, whoa, 60 to 90%. Yikes.
It's almost as if there are adults who regret altering their body, so there's definitely children who end up regretting it. I mean, hell, I got 2 tattoos at age 18 and regret both of them. So, this whole topic has really had me thinking about what I would look like at age 24 if I hadn't transitioned. So we're going to use this little app called Face App, not sponsored, although I wish. Oh, I look like shit. I kind of look like a serial killer. I kind of look like my boyfriend. Joseph! Come look at this.
Look at what? Babe, stop doing things like this.
The fact is, the choice to transition is one that affects the rest of your life every area of your life and in ways that you can't even anticipate or really plan for. There are some people who treat it as a fad, as a political statement, and glamorize and sensationalize it, but that's not real life. Now, just for a little personal story to throw into this, I once knew a person who was transitioning from male to female. This person was a couple years younger than me, and this person was an online friend. I was kind of acting as a mentor to this person who was struggling with being trans, struggling with transition, and because I had already started, I kind of was informing them on what to expect, how to deal with it, and just being sort of a guide on the roadmap to being trans for this person. Now, after about a few months of trying to help this person with their transition, they went dark. They stopped talking to me. They completely fell off the face of the earth. And then about a year later, I got a message from them saying that they appreciate all the help that I gave them at the time, but they're no longer transitioning and they realized they just want to be a boy. And I was so shocked by that. So obviously I asked him, why the cold feet? You seemed so sure. It seemed like this was something that you really needed and wanted to do. And he basically said that he got caught up in sort of like the glamorous side of it, watching trans celebrities on YouTube, watching YouTubers, and looking at me and my transition, thinking that it must be easy, it must be glamorous, it must be fun. That is the absolute wrong mindset. So he was now detransitioning and, like the other person, dealing with breast growth and erectile dysfunction. Word of caution, don't play with your life. Don't play with your body, don't play with your future. And all of that to say, for some people, it's the absolute right decision. For me, it was the right decision. I'm extremely happy. Transition opened up my life in so many ways, and it just made sense. But you have to be sure. And when I say sure, I mean some real deep soul searching type of sure, some real therapy type of sure. So I know when I come on YouTube and when I'm doing all my antics online, it seems very much like, very happy and frilly and easy, but the road to get here was not that. So if that's the case for anyone out there, I'm here to correct you and let you know that it's not easy. Does this look fun to you? I feel like I'm on Scared Straight or something. And that's about all I got for this topic, you guys. Peace out until next time. But just so you guys know, I will be sticking to a very strict uploading schedule for 2018. I'll be uploading once a week, if not more, every single week. That's my resolution for the new year.
And that was Blair White. Interesting. I'm going to subscribe, and because I've never ever seen a transgendered person actually give this warning out and break it down like that. That is very interesting. Pretty much just said my point for me, which is great because I can just move on to the next topic. And there's still a lot more. Even after the 2-hour mark, there's still a lot more. Oh boy. What should we go with? What's next? Let's talk about this.
This program with one of two BuzzFeed reporters behind a report that, if true, meant that federal investigators had evidence that the President of the United States committed a serious crime and potentially an impeachable offense. CNN had not independently confirmed the story, nor had any other news organization. And just a few moments ago, we learned that BuzzFeed was going to pull their reporter from the program because Robert Mueller's office was about to weigh in. Well, that office has weighed in, and it is something in itself. Before getting into exactly what Mueller's office has now said, and they rarely ever say anything on the record, here's the essence of what the BuzzFeed report was. The headline read, President Trump directed his attorney, Michael Cohen, to lie to Congress about the Moscow Tower project. Earlier today, neither the president nor the White House categorically denied the substance of it. By this afternoon, though, that line had changed. Rudy Giuliani, the president's TV lawyer, calling the report categorically false. Press Secretary Sarah Sanders echoed that line.
Did the president direct Michael Cohen to lie to Congress?
Look, that's absolutely ridiculous. I think that the president's outside counsel addressed this best and said in a statement earlier today that's categorically false.
Well, now, in a very rare move, the special counsel's office has weighed in. CNN Sarah Murray joins us now with that and all the other late developments. So what did the special counsel's office say? And this just happened.
It did just happen, Anderson. And as you pointed out, it's remarkable that they issued a statement like this. But here's what it says from Peter Carr, the spokesman for the special counsel. BuzzFeed's description of specific statements to the special counsel's office and characterization of documents and testimony obtained by this office regarding Michael Cohen's congressional testimony are not accurate. And remember, Anderson, this story, it's sourced to, federal law enforcement officials, but it also said that there were all of these documents, that there were interviews, that there were witnesses, and that is really what backed up this notion that the president had tried to get Michael Cohen to testify to something that just wasn't true in front of Congress. And now the special counsel is pretty unequivocally saying, we have documents and witness statements, but they don't back up what BuzzFeed is saying in the story.
And there were two reporters on the BuzzFeed story. We were supposed to talk to one of them. They said that they had two sources on the records, unnamed sources in federal law enforcement, who I believe they claimed that they had seen some of these documents.
Yeah, that's right. I think they said their sources had reviewed some of these documents, but the BuzzFeed reporters had not personally reviewed them. And Anderson, this is a story that's kind of stumped a lot of us during the day and until late last night, because no one else has been able to confirm this story. No one else was able to get their hands on any of these documents that apparently backed up this story. And I think the same, is true of the BuzzFeed reporters. They didn't put anything else further out corroborating it in terms of the underlying evidence. But I think this statement really shows you what a difficult position the special counsel's office was in today. We know the Justice Department, that includes the special counsel's office, does not like to comment on anything, regarding an ongoing investigation. That's what got James Comey into so much trouble when he was leading the FBI. But in the wake of this BuzzFeed story, we saw so many lawmakers, Democratic lawmakers, going out there today and saying, we need to know if this is true or not. If this is true, we need to see these underlying documents, because the president instructing someone to lie to Congress, the president obstructing justice, is grounds for impeachment. And I think that this sort of drumbeat we saw from lawmakers is part of what put pressure on the special counsel to do something so extraordinary. I mean, as you pointed out, they almost never comment. Last year, they wouldn't even tell the New York Times what one of their prosecutors was having for lunch around the Manafort trial. That's how little they want to comment on these things.
Yeah, Sarah Murray, appreciate it. I want to go next to the White House, seen as Pamela Brown. Pam, you heard Sarah Sanders categorically deny the report this afternoon, quoting Rudy Giuliani. Has there been any reaction since the special counsel's office weighed in?
Not publicly, but I think it's safe to say that the president will likely tweet about this very soon, Anderson, because this is vindication from what White House officials have been saying throughout the day here since early this morning, that they have been saying that this is false. Initially, you heard some of the White House officials come out and attack the credibility of BuzzFeed, attack the idea of leaking from law enforcement officials. And then as the day went on, Sarah Sanders, as you point out, the press secretary, then came out and said it's categorically false. Rudy Giuliani, the president's attorney, said the same thing. She was echoing the sentiment from what we heard from Rudy Giuliani. And so now, in an extraordinary move, Anderson, the special counsel spokesman, Peter Carr, is coming out and essentially saying that there is nothing to back up this BuzzFeed report that the president directed Michael Cohen, his former attorney, to lie to Congress, and that there are Trump Organization documents to back it up. Again, as Sarah pointed out, that is extremely rare for the special counsel to do it. But also, this story from BuzzFeed certainly caught a lot of attention because of the implications for possible impeachment, as Sarah pointed out, subordinating perjury.
So since Trump has been elected, it's been like a constant thing, like, oh, we're going to impeach him, like, oh, Mueller's investigating, blah, blah, blah. But, like, if there was something to find, wouldn't he have found it already? I'm all for holding people accountable and investigating if there's something there. But is there something there? And how much money is being wasted on the Mueller investigation? Let's see. From what I remember, it was like 8 million or something. Let's see, like this. Oh, this is from December. Wow. Is this? Mueller probe cost $25
Donald
million.
Trump has changed his.
So far, report says it's pulled in $48 million from tax
story several
cheats.
times during the Russia.
Shut up! I'm not trying to play you. In the first 16 months, according to CNBC, Special Counsel's office released its new expenditure report Friday. which revealed that 6 months between the beginning of April through September cost about $4.5 million. More than half of the total cost is attributed to personnel compensation and benefits. Mueller has filed more than 100 criminal charges. Wait, how is it paying for itself with the probe leading to monetary estimated gains of $48 million? Through the tax evasion the investigation revealed. Huh. Interesting. So maybe it's a good thing, even though they're not finding anything. Forfeit assets that amount to between $42 million and $46 million. So it's Manafort that Manafort avoided paying more than $15 million in taxes by laundering $60 million from pro-Russian Ukrainians. Whoa. So I mean, the guys around Trump were found to be guilty, but they haven't really found anything on Trump himself. So this BuzzFeed story, you know, was based on anonymous sources, and it's just kind of hilarious that Mueller came out, Mueller's office came out themselves and said that it's just false. And then there was so much hype, like, oh, he's finally gonna get impeached. This is it. Bro, his term is almost done. I mean, just, you know, if he commits a crime, okay, but you're really trying to just reach. This is so politically motivated. And here's the thing, if Trump gets impeached, who's gonna be the president? Mike fucking Pence. Total neocon. He's going to ramp up the war on terror if he gets put in. And good luck finding something on Mike Pence. So, you know, Trump, he made a deal yesterday. He announced a deal that he was going to he announced a new deal for the Democrats in order to get the wall, started. Well, about 100-something miles have already begun construction, but to fund the rest of it, he has this proposal, and also to reopen the government. So that includes $800 million in humanitarian aid, $805 million in anti-drug trafficking, extending the temporary status for certain illegals by like a few years, and also starting the path to legalization for like 3,000 something DACA recipients. Also like an asylum program for refugee kids, illegal minors, but for asylum in their home countries apparently. So it sounds like somewhat of a fair deal for the Democrats to get their, he's compromising on the DACA thing, which he was against. So we'll see if the Democrats will accept that. So, right now we're looking at, he's saying that he has said that he wouldn't mind keeping the government shut down for months and years. But here's the thing. Not only the federal workers are not getting money, but in February, the SNAP, EBT, food stamp benefits are going to run out of money. And that leads us into the next video. And we're going to have to speed up here so that we can get, because we're already over time right now.
Hey, what's going on, guys? So,
gotta eat and have some breakfast.
This government shutdown continues, and now they're talking about, well, they're not just now talking about it, but obviously the potential for SNAP benefits and EBT cards to lose their funding is becoming more and more of a reality as we go on. They're talking February. I'm not exactly sure if that means February 1 or, February 1 hits, you got a week, go get whatever it is you need to get. So this is basically just a video about some common sense preparedness for this situation for everybody. Even if you don't live in the inner city, you know, there are people on welfare and benefits and things like that from every walk of life, every skin color, every religion that lives in the most affluent subdivision right on down to, you know, crack row or whatever. So first thing, number one, is realize that if these riots happen, if there are people that are out there looking to supplement this because now they've lost it, it could be your next door neighbor, or it could be 30 miles away in the city or 100 miles away. Okay, so this all applies to all of us. Now, a lot of what I'm about to talk about is really not anything new in preparedness, but it's as certain things loom over us and we have some forewarning that, hey, there's going to be riots. If the SNAP benefits end, people are going to snap. They've already said it. We're going to riot. We're going to, you know, we're going to go off. And that's because they don't know any other way to react, right? Some people are going to continue to be humble and just roll with the punches. Maybe they ask their neighbor for some food or something like that before they steal it, or a family member. I don't know. But you know that there's going to be a certain amount of people, a certain amount of the population that's going to riot, and it's going to be violent, and it's probably not going to be real good if you're in that situation. So unless you're on some serious off-grid retreat where you very, very rarely ever leave that retreat, you know, some of this may not apply to you. But if you're a person, especially a person that travels for business, or you use your vehicle or a company vehicle and you do a lot of work in and around cities or big towns or things like that, and you find yourself there on a regular basis, you know, a lot of this really pertains to that type of person. And then people kind of in those like surrounding suburbs that are pretty close to those bad parts, you know, of the city. Like, hey, 4 blocks this way, it's you know, it's all gumdrops and roses. 4 blocks this way, it's, you know, crack needles and heroin bags on the ground. So anyway, let's talk about, you know, our physical body. Our bone bag is number one.
So you get the point. You should be doing this anyway, but you should always have a stash of shelf-stable food available. Freeze-dried food, you know, canned food. You can get everything you need on Amazon or whatever other site. You can get some stuff like this, you know, figure out what's, you know, look at the ingredients, figure out what makes the most sense for you and your budget. I bought one of these recently, the food storage, Augustin Farms, because it was highly rated. But it is just a lot of carbs and sodium, which is what you're going to see in a lot of these packs. If you get the cheaper ones, they're not going to be the best ingredients. You know, if you want, if you want something with more protein, obviously you're gonna have to pay more. You know, there's canned food you can get. Like I bought some canned beef the other day. I bought some of this stuff. It's, you know, $5 a can for 14 ounces. You know, it's whatever you can afford, as long as you have something that is ready to go. And if it's freeze dried or something, you need to have a portable stove in case your gas or electricity gets cut off. You know, there's different portable stoves out there to cook these things with. You know, you could get something like this with propane. You know, one stove that I want to get that I've seen. Shout out to Compa LOL on Twitch. Follow him on Twitch. He gave me a heads up about BioLite, and this is so fucking cool. So, you know, they got these stoves that you can just put let's see, camp stove. You can just put twigs and stuff in there. You know, if you could put in raw materials in there, it'll burn it. You can burn it easily in there, cook things on top of it, and you could even charge different devices as a USB in there. I want to get one of these, not the camp stove, but the base camp. See, the base camp converts heat into usable electricity for large format cooking and charging, using only fallen branches or small pieces of firewood, make wood-fired meals and charge devices all at the same time. It's a smart alternative to fossil fuel stoves, creating an elevated cooking fire that burns smarter than any fire you're used to. So it's got a 2200 milliamp hour battery with 5-watt USB charge out, burns solid biomass. So you just need a fire starter, or maybe some lighter fuel fluid just to get it started, but it'll burn in there. It's designed so that you can do this, and even if it's a little bit windy or whatever, and you've got your charge right there. It's a little bit expensive, but like I said, there's all kinds of stuff. You got different options here that you can use. Make sure you have a backup option so that because if you have a bunch of freeze-dried food, you're gonna need water and you're gonna need something to heat it with. So you're also gonna want some portable filtration. This is what I use at home, but I don't know what they this removes a lot of stuff. Obviously this might not be the best solution if it's a crisis situation, but you gotta shop around. It's tough finding a good filtration method. The Life Straw is good for emergencies. Life Straw is just all self-contained. You could literally just stick the straw in a rancid pond and start, it'll automatically, as soon as you suck through it, it's filtering as you suck through it. They got different devices there. This is actually a good one as well. I should probably get that one, because you can just put it through, I think, the top, and you kind of hang it up, put the water to the top, and you spray it down. There's also tablets, water potable tablets, purification tablets. Yeah, water purification tablets. That's when you really have nothing else, you can put some water purification tablets into some nasty water and it'll be drinkable. So make sure you have that. Make sure you have first aid. There's different first aid kits you can get. Make sure you have that. Make sure you have flashlights. Make sure you have some kind of protection, some kind of self-defense. I know in places like New York City, you're very limited on what you can use to protect yourself. But you should definitely have something at home. I've got a few different things at home to protect myself at home that are legal. And I encourage you to do some research, find out what is legal in your area so that you can protect yourself, because your number one investment should be in your own body, your own health. And in the event of a crisis, you're gonna need that stuff. So make sure you set aside some money, and just like you have a savings account where you put some money in, invest in the things you would need if, let's say, the economy were to crash, the power were to go out, or, for example, your SNAP benefits if they were to get cut off. Do whatever you can to set aside stuff, canned food. And the thing is, this used to be a part of American culture after World War II, or even before World War II, because you were in the Cold War. There was always the threat of nuclear war, so people had to be prepared, and that's what people did. They they saved. They had more of a stock of food and supplies, and were generally more self-sufficient. But actually, I meant to get into. I meant to get into when we're talking about the BuzzFeed story, that there's all this hype, all this like, oh, Donald Trump is embedded with the Russians. Well, you know what is the GDP of Russia? First of all, 1.5 trillion. What is the GDP of Canada? 1.6 trillion. Canada has more money, is worth more than Russia. So think about that. That's kind of gives you some perspective on how powerful Russia is. Yes, Russia has nuclear weapons, but they're also, economically they are struggling. And when we're talking about being in bed with the Russians, the mainstream media, other than the New York Times in this report, fails to point out that Hillary Clinton made a deal with the Russians, the Uranium One deal, which gave the Russians, a fifth of the nuclear weapons or nuclear power. Let's see. Detailed how the Russian Atomic Energy Agency, Rosatom, had taken over a Canadian company with uranium mining stakes, like a fifth of their uranium is what I meant to say. Stretching from Central Asia to American West. The deal made Rosatom one of the world's largest uranium producers and brought Putin closer to his goal of controlling much of the global uranium supply chain. The untold story behind that story is one that involves not just the Russian president, but also a former American president and a woman who would like to be the next one. So this came out when? In 2015. So before Trump was elected. So beyond mines in Kazakhstan that are among the most lucrative in the world, the sale gave the Russians control of 1/5 of all uranium production capacity in the United States. Since uranium is considered a strategic asset with implications for national security, the deal had to be approved by a committee composed of representatives from a number of United States government agencies. Among the agencies that eventually signed off was the State Department, then headed by none other than Mr. Clinton's wife, Hillary Rodham Clinton. As the Russians gradually assumed control of Uranium One in 3 separate transactions from 2009 to 2013, Canadian records show a flow of cash made its way to the Clinton Foundation. So while they were making this deal, well, it took some years to get this process, through. During that time, a flow of cash made its way to the Clinton Foundation. Uranium One's chairman used his family foundation to make 4 donations totaling $2.35 million. Those contributions were not publicly disclosed by the Clintons, despite an agreement Mrs. Clinton had struck with the Obama White House to publicly identify all donors. Other people with ties to the company made donations as well. And shortly after the Russians announced their intention to acquire a majority stake in Uranium One, Mr. Clinton received $500,000 for a Moscow speech from a Russian investment bank with links to the Kremlin that was promoting Uranium One stock. At the time, both Rosatom and the United States government made promises intended to ease concerns about ceding control of the company's assets to the Russians. Those promises have been repeatedly broken, records show. So if you want to look that up, New York Times, Uranium One, you can read the whole article. And it doesn't necessarily implicate Hillary directly, but it does leave the question open like, hey, she was on this committee that approved this deal for the Russians to get 1/5 of our uranium capacity, of U.S. uranium capacity through this deal. And at the same time this deal was being made, over a few years' time, the Clinton Foundation received $2.35 million. And you got to think about that whole saying, follow the money if you want to know what's really going on in politics. So that's kind of interesting, isn't it? Let's see, there's another article by the Washington Post. Yes, the Clintons should be investigated. So meanwhile, with this huge investigation, 2 years into this huge investigation, Mueller's in, and Hillary Clinton has never been investigated. So why is that? How come she hasn't been investigated? Ever since Watergate, the mantra of all major corruption investigations has been to follow the money. Well, Americans of all stripes should be outraged by the fact that both Democrats and Republicans in Washington are up to their eyeballs in Kremlin cash. Russian money found its way into the pockets of not only Trump advisors like Paul Manafort and Rick Gates, who were recently indicted by special counsel Robert Mueller, but also Democratic power lobbyist Tony Podesta, Bill Clinton, and the Clinton Foundation. This should suggest to objective observers that Russia was using its money to influence both sides in order to advance the Kremlin's interests. And it means that any full and impartial investigation of Russia's efforts to influence our political process needs to follow the Russian money flowing into the coffers of the Clintons, their foundation, and their top associates. This is from the Washington Post. Okay, so in total, $145 million went to the Clinton Foundation from interests linked to Uranium One, which was acquired by the Russian government nuclear agency, Rosatom. So, this is very suspicious. If you want to read more about that, just look up this title. Yes, the Clintons should be investigated, Washington Post. But, oh man, it doesn't end there. It doesn't end there. Oh man, the rabbit hole is very, very deep. Very, very deep. What is this other one that I have here? Before we get to this YouTube video that I want to show you. We already talked about the cost, so we can skip that. This is the craziest video.
Trump and his
this
wonderful
led
dog
me into
Boulder.
looking into, eventually, yet last night, I was looking into the whole Pepe thing. And that fucking blows my mind, too. But let's take a peek at this right here.
The election and subsequent presidency of Donald
Now
J.
we're getting into some wild territory here, you know, conspiracy theory territory here. But I'm, you know, again, I believe anything is possible, and that, you know, we are fed lies all the time from, you know, both sides of the aisle, from all over mainstream media. It's really hard to discern what reality is nowadays, especially with the meme culture and things like that, where lies and truth are mixed together seamlessly. Going back to our first topic of the day, Soulja Boy, how he seemed together lies and facts seamlessly to fool the average person.
Trump has been one of the most controversial political events in U.S. history. But what if I told you it was all planned out decades in advance? What if I told you that you're living in a scripted reality? And what if I had the evidence to prove it? I'm talking about the predictive programming surrounding the Donald Trump presidency, which I will go over here in this video. Not only was his presidency scripted out decades in advance before our very eyes, so were his outrageous claims to build a wall and possibly even be America's last president. But before we get started with all of those examples, first we should define what predictive programming is. Predictive programming is a form of lesser magic that is used by the occultist elites as a way to hide their plans in plain sight. It is a well-known and ancient practice used by Satanists, occultists, witches, and the like. We can see countless examples of this predictive programming, from the sinking of the Titanic, which was quote-unquote predicted 14 years before it actually happened, to the foreshadowing of 9/11 in multiple mainstream and underground media outlets, all the way to the presidency of Donald Trump that was actually planned out decades in advance, as this video today will prove. Now, there are several reasons why the so-called elites use predictive programming on the masses. First, it's a way to condition us into accepting our pre-planned destiny and scripted reality, because if somebody's subconscious has already been programmed and familiarized with a certain event, they're going to be much less likely to resist it once it happens. Second, it's a way to relieve themselves of any guilt or responsibility for their actions. They believe that if they tell you to your face in one way or another that your reality is being scripted decades in advance, well then it's up to you whether to accept the truth that's in plain sight or reject and deny it. And from their perspective, if you choose the latter, if you choose to deny it, then it's no longer their fault, because you have made the conscious choice at that point to deny it, even though they have told you the truth straight to your face. So without further ado, let's take a look at some of the examples we have of predictive programming for a Trump presidency, which in my opinion proves without any shadow of a doubt that the whole thing was planned long ago by the shadowy figures who control our entire reality. First, we're going to start out with the books by Ingersoll Lockwood, who was a very popular American political writer, lawyer, and novelist from the late 1800s. Now, two of his most popular works were illustrated children's stories, and these children's stories just so happen to contain a peculiar fictional character whose name just might ring a bell. This name is Baron Trump. Now, for those of you who don't know, Baron Trump just so happens to be the name of one of Trump's sons. So in these two novels, the first one being named The Travels and Adventures of Little Baron Trump and His Wonderful Dog Bulger, the second one being Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey, feature a little boy named Baron Trump who is a wealthy young man living in Castle Trump, and he ends up growing tired of his wealthy lifestyle. So in a twist of fate, he ends up visiting Russia, of all places, to embark on an extraordinary venture that will shape the rest of his life. But that's not all. In Lockwood's final novel, which was written in 1896, it just so happened to be titled The Last President. So it shouldn't come as any surprise to anybody that there are some incredible connections to be made between the first family of the United States and Lockwood's novels from the turn of the 19th century. I mean, for starters, the main character's name is the same exact name as President Donald Trump's son, and Baron Trump's adventures in the book begin in Russia. But not only that, his adventures are guided by the masters of all masters, as the book calls it, a man named Don, or aka Donald. And now the reason for him going to Russia, the reason why Baron Trump visits Russia in this book, strangely enough, is to locate an entrance into alternate dimensions. Now, by Lockwood's third novel, The Last President, things become even more eerily linked to the present day. The story begins with a scene from New York City in early November, and it's described as a state of uproar after an election takes place of an enormously opposed outsider candidate. Does that sound familiar? But not only that, after the city turns into a mob and starts attacking the rich, the book actually names the Fifth Avenue Hotel. And it says the Fifth Avenue Hotel will be the first to feel the fury of the mob. And the Fifth Avenue Hotel is in the exact place where Trump Tower stands today. So New York City in this book is fearing a collapse of the Republic, all because of a corrupt and unethical election process. And Americans actually start forming a resistance and protesting against this election process. Now, you might be able to chalk that up as nothing more than coincidence, but just wait until you see all of the other examples we have of predictive programming surrounding the presidency of Donald Trump. For our next example, we have the movie Back to the Future 2, which also happened to predict a Donald Trump presidency. It was screenwriter Bob Gale who admitted to the Daily Beast that Marty McFly's arch nemesis, the wealthy villain Biff Tannen, was indeed based on Donald Trump. And in this movie, it's Biff Tannen who turns his fortunes, among them a casino, into a quest for political power. And in this 1989 sequel, Biff then uses the profits from his casino to help shake up the Republican Party, and eventually assumes political power himself. Then, in what becomes a lawless dystopian wasteland, Biff encourages every citizen to call him America's greatest living folk hero. But if you're still not convinced that we're living in a scripted reality, maybe this will help. The Simpsons also happened to predict a Donald Trump presidency, all the way back in the year 2000 with an episode titled Bart to the Future, of course very similar to Back to the Future. And in this episode, Lisa Simpson is depicted as being president, but only after Donald Trump is president and bankrupts the country.
As you know, we've inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump. President Trump. President Trump. How bad is it, Secretary Van Houten? We're broke. The country is broke.
But not only did The Simpsons also happen...
And we are $21 trillion in debt. Not all due to Trump, but Trump has increased the debt, not brought it down. The debt has been building for quite a few administrations. I don't know off the top of my head how far back it goes from, but that information is all available on Google if you want to look at how far this deficit has gone, how long this deficit has gone.
To predict a Trump presidency, the episode's writer, Dan Greeny, said that the fictional Trump presidency was a quote-unquote warning to America. But the Trump presidency was not the only time The Simpsons have used predictive programming in their episodes. In fact, it's one of their favorite places to hide the truth in plain sight because it's a goofy comedy that nobody takes seriously. But the scariest part is, the sleeping zombies out there actually think these things are a coincidence. Some other examples of this predictive programming in The Simpsons include Lady Gaga at the Super Bowl that was shown a full 5 years before it actually happened. We have the death of Prince that The Simpsons also happened to predict. And then there's, of course, 9/11 with a magazine that says 9/11 well before it happened. And then let's not forget how Homer Simpson also happened to discover the Higgs boson particle a full 14 years before CERN discovered it.
Homer Simpson, yes, a fictional character, may in fact be a scientific genius. As it's been revealed, he predicted the mass of the elementary Higgs boson particle more than a decade before scientists did. Back in an episode from 1998, in The Wizard of Evergreen Terrace, Homer becomes an inventor. A scene in which he's depicted in front of a blackboard bearing an equation actually works out the mass of the previously unknown particle.
Now, you can't possibly think these things are all a coincidence at this point, right? Are you starting to see your scripted reality for what it is? Well, if not, there's still plenty to go. I even saved the best for last. Next, we have some more predictive programming of the Trump presidency in the Illuminati card deck. Now, the Illuminati card deck has also predicted a number of other events, but the Trump presidency is certainly on the top of the list. Here we can see the card Enough is Enough. And as you can see here, he even has a quote, "Part of being a winner is knowing when enough is enough."
That card deck is wild. I want a copy of that shit. Like, that thing predicts 9/11. It has so many different things. Each one of those cards in that deck seems like predicts something. So that's crazy that even Trump's face is in there.
Exactly what it says on his Illuminati card, which you can see his face very clearly. It's a perfect match, pretty much. And
shit, sorry, I thought I was muted just now. I want a copy of that Illuminati card box, because like each card seems to have predicted something, such as 9/11.
on this card it says, "At any time, at any place, our snipers can drop you. Have a nice day." Oh, but that's not all. Perhaps some of the most disturbing examples of predictive programming can be found in children's television programming. And yes, it's called programming for a reason. We can see how they are clearly molding and bending the young minds out there to accept their scripted and fake reality from a very early age. This first example comes from an episode of a children's show called Sheriff Callie's Wild West, which just so happened to air the day before President Trump was elected. And in this episode, Sheriff Callie is challenged in her re-election bid by an ill-tempered, cattle-thieving dog with awful hair, named Trusty Rusty. He ends up winning the election by rigging it, and then he surrounds himself with incompetent yes-men and starts changing the laws to suit and enrich himself, all while threatening those who speak out against him. And then he actually takes former Sheriff Calley and throws her in jail. And Sheriff Calley, of course, represents Hillary Clinton. But this is not the only prophetic piece of children's programming that we can find. In the 2014 Lego movie, which was years before Trump even declared his candidacy, the protagonist, named President Business, owns a large business, has terrible hair, he wants to rule the world, and he uses the media to brainwash the public. Then he starts controlling all the surveillance, he rigs the elections, and uses militarized police to enforce his will. And he literally wants to build walls to keep everyone in their own Legoland. I mean, does any of that sound familiar? Do you still think this is all just a coincidence? Or do you think this suggests that our reality is being scripted decades, if not hundreds of years in advance? But just wait until you see this next and final example. Way back in the 1950s, there was a Western-themed TV show that featured a con man named Trump who wanted to build a wall. This TV show was called Trackdown, and get a load of this, the episode was called The End of the World.
Got a name? Trump. I bet it fits. I bring you a message. A message few of you will be able to believe. A message of great importance. A message I alone was able to read in the fires of the universe. But be not afraid, my friends. I also bring you the means with which to save yourselves. Save us from what? From the end of the world, friend. Which I don't expect you to believe. But the rest of you, those who want to be alive tomorrow morning, I will tell you tonight. Remember that. Bring your friends here. I'll tell you tonight so that you will be able to prepare. What are you selling, Mr. Snake Oil? The world will come to a flaming end at midnight tonight. Without my help and knowledge, every one of you will be dead. Planning to remain in town for long? Well, I understand I have until midnight. And you heard? Yeah, I heard. Your name is Trump? All right, Sheriff. How long are you going to put up with this? What do you mean? How long are you going to let this con man walk around town? Be careful, son. I can sue you. How about it, Sheriff? When are you going to put the lid on? What for? Well, stealing is stealing, whether you do it with a gun or a mouthful of meaty words. I don't intend to sit here and be insulted, Sheriff. If your people don't want my help, I can go elsewhere. Wait a minute, Mr. Trump. You don't talk for the rest of us. Since the sheriff wouldn't stop Trump, we had to find somebody who would. Sheriff Chet Farrow was the gun law in Tulsa, and Judge Clement was the book law. You hear about Trump? Yes, sir. What are you going to do about him? What do you want me to do? Stop him. From what? From taking the town. Can you prove that that's what he has in mind? Well, it's obvious. But can you prove it? In order to arrest him, the sheriff has to have a charge. And Trump hasn't given him a thing to go on. Well, there's got to be some way to stop him. Well, if there is, I don't...
Isn't this shit spooky? Aren't these a lot of parallels that are happening today? The guy's name is Trump, okay? He's talking about building a wall to prevent the end of the world. He threatens to sue people who disagree with him. And you're having a conversation here about you need proof. For example, the Russian collusion investigation, they're not able to find the proof. But then, because of all his rhetoric and the kind of image he portrays, people are saying, hey, there's something off about this, something wrong about this guy. Like, what's going on?
I don't know it. It's a funny thing. Sir? When we were kids, we were all afraid of the dark. And we grew up, we weren't afraid anymore, but it's funny how a big lie can make us all kids again. Only had checked the town. The people were ready to believe. Like sheep, they ran toward the slaughterhouse. And waiting for them was the high priest of fraud.
I am the only one.
How do we save ourselves? You ask, how do you build that wall? You ask, and I'm here to tell you. You're a liar, Trump. You're not going to be any ring of fire. Can you deny the meteorites will come? Can you deny the comet? Well, it's not going to happen the way you say it is. Aren't you going to stay for the fireworks? Huh? Looks like you're going to go before everything's done. I've done all I can for Talpa. Figure it's time for me to be moving on. Well, I think you ought to wait. Where you and I disagree. You're under arrest, Trump. What charge? Well, you write it any way you like. Grand theft, fraud, I think a jury will find it stealing.
Okay, so there you have it, a TV show all the way back from the 1950s that featured a con man named Trump who wanted to build a wall in order to save everybody from the end of the world. Oh, and he also liked to threaten to sue people. And I'd also thought I'd point out real quick that there was some pretty interesting symbolism in there as well, but no surprise. Now, if you can chalk all of this up to mere coincidence, then I definitely...
Pyramid, pentagram, the moon symbol. A lot of those are definitely occult symbols.
doubt anything will ever wake you up to what's really going on in this world and the scripted reality that you're living in. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on it out there, and thank you so much for watching.
Okay, so after I saw this video, this started leading me down a rabbit hole last night. I had meant to just sit down and watch like sorry about that. So after I watched this video, I went down like a rabbit hole in YouTube. Okay, I started seeing different videos about, you know, I said it led me to Pepe basically. And this video right here really sent tingles and chills straight through my fucking body. And here's why. Because I've known for a while, I've believed for a while that when you put your attention on something, you're giving something energy. There's this saying that if you had a stadium full of people focusing on a tree in the middle of the field, and if everybody, you know, with all of their belief and energy, believe that if they concentrated on this tree that it would burn, And while that could happen or not, I don't know, but there is something to say about the ability, you know, because we are all energy at the end of the day. We're atoms, we're protons, we're neutrons. The spectrum of visible light where we see things with our eyes, things look concrete, but that's not everything. That's just how our brain processes energy in a way that, you know, we can understand. There is space between protons and there's space between atoms. There's space in the middle of the atom. Like that. How is it that we can, you know, touch something, and feel that it's solid, okay? Anyways, I'm gonna play this video. It's 37 minutes long. I think I'm gonna play the whole thing on the stream. We're gonna repost on YouTube. I don't think I'm gonna include the whole thing. Maybe I will. This will end up being like a 4-hour stream then. But this video, and the person who made this video seemed nervous too as she was making it. This video right here about Pepe and KEK and everything like that is fucking bananas. It's fucking bananas. And like my spidey sense literally goes off the charts. So I already seen this whole video. I'm just going to play it on the stream. I'm going to go eat breakfast. I'm going to come back. And we're going to conclude the show. Thank you for everybody who tuned in. And check out this fucking video.
People who are brave enough to face the truth about this world and not roll their eyes, not shrug their shoulders and act like it's no big deal. People who face the truth about what's going on are brave. Because there's some scary things going on and nobody wants to talk about it. For the record, what I'm about to talk about, I'm not for or against. And I'm going to have to bring up politics, but it's not about politics. Something was brought interdimensionally into this world, and it hasn't completely come into fruition yet. But this isn't something to take lightly. Put on your crazy hats and let's go for a little ride. Now, unfortunately, this may be a little painful, but to understand fully, I'm going to need to take you back to an emotional time. We're going to have to go back to when no one thought Trump had a chance in hell.
There's not going to be a President Donald Trump. That's not going to happen.
Donald Trump will not become president.
Donald Trump is not going to be president of the United States. Take it to the bank.
Okay.
I guarantee it.
All right.
I think that man will be president of the United States right about the time that spaceships come down filled with dinosaurs and red capes.
Donald Trump has been saying that he will run for president as a Republican, which is surprising since I just assumed he was running as a joke.
Donald Trump, just last week, he confirmed to the National Review that he is again considering a run in 2016.
Do it. Do it. Look at me. Do it. I will personally write you a campaign check now on behalf of this country, which does not want you to be president, but which badly wants you to run.
He will never be president of the United States.
And we better be ready for the fact that he might be leading the Republican ticket next. I know you don't believe that, but I want to go on.
Sorry to laugh.
And which Republican candidate has the best chance of winning the general election?
Right now, Donald Trump.
Right now, Mr. Trump, to answer your call for political honesty, I just want to say, you're not going to be president, all right? It's been fun. It's been great. I love you. But come on, buddy.
President Obama will go down as perhaps the worst president in the history of the United States! Exclamation point at real Donald Trump. Well, at real Donald Trump, at least I will go down as a president.
So she's ahead in almost every poll, every swing state, every national poll.
Everyone's going to be a little bit skeptical this year because so few of us saw Trump coming back in August. You said he had about a 2% chance of getting the nomination. He got it.
Everybody around this table that I know, we've been in every presidential campaign probably since 1980 in various degrees. And in Trump's problem, he doesn't have you don't know what his compass is.
I talk to people all the time, as I'm sure everybody around the table does, and they say, why don't you Republicans do something about this guy?
Trump, who's had a horrific month and a half since the convention, as bad as any major national candidate in modern American history. And yet, shockingly, he's still 3-4 points behind.
Drop out. Simply drop out and tell America this entire candidacy was a stunt, a satire designed to expose the flaws in the system. And the thing is, you could actually make a fairly decent case for that.
You know, it's not devastating on any one day, but it seems like we're getting to the death by 1,000 cuts feel.
Donald Trump will never be elected president of the United States. All these polls are a joke.
The mimetic and occult attacks upon Hillary Clinton involves literally tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of participants, some of which are aware of what's happening, many of which are not.
On this, there are easy tactics. I know them, how to get more voice and virality to messaging that we're not using as a government to get counter messages out there. I know something about memes, to get memes to go more viral. Look at their fancy memes compared to what we're not doing.
All key tenets making up the emerging racist ideology known as the alt-right. Now,
so let's go ahead and talk about how Pepe the Frog, the meme, became the emergence of an ancient Egyptian deity that manifested through the hate from that election. And apparently it's not going back, it's just getting stronger. As much as I'm tired of the lies from our government and the spirit cooking and everything that they do, I think now more than ever, it's time to choose wisely what we put our heart into, what we identify ourselves with, because it might just be the only forever choice we ever make. So anyway, let's talk about KEK. KEK around 2010 became popular on 4chan as a way to say LOL, KEK. It's Korean. And about that same time, about 2010, a sad-looking cartoon frog began to trend on 4chan, which is an underground message board. So Pepe the Frog and KEK the Giggle were both part of 4chan's identity at the time that they chose Donald Trump as their candidate of choice, because they were fed up with politics. Who can blame them? So 4chan kind of merged these memes together into Pepe the Frog, KEK, Donald Trump. Then it started getting weird. So every 4chan post that is made gets assigned an 8-digit numerical stamp. And that number represents the post's entry position on the entire posting lineage of the image board. Because it's a random roll, when a poster gets repeated digits, it's called dubs or trips or quads and so on. And that's called a get. Like, yay, you got it. So people sometimes bet on whether they're going to get doubles. And it started happening a lot that Trump posts would get frequent gets or dubs or whatever. So that got noticed because it was celebrated every time. Then the unthinkable happened. On 6/19/16, someone posted Trump will win, and all 8 digits of the timestamp were 7s. And it brought many dubs, and everyone pretty much freaked out. And that was one of the first times it felt really real. Then come to find out, KEK is actually an Egyptian deity, a frog-headed one. And more specifically, KEK, also spelled K-U-K or K-E-K-U, is the deification of the primordial concept of darkness in ancient Egyptian religion, represented by a frog-headed man, or in female form, a snake-headed woman. They are a symbol of darkness and also represented obscurity and the unknown, and thus chaos. And also it was seen that they came in just before dawn, so they were the bringer in of light, which made me think of Lucifer right away, the bearer of light. But everybody associated it with the Make America Great Again Trump stance. And it was about that time that a little statuette was found on Amazon in a vendor called Ancient Treasures that was mislabeled a KEK statue of a frog, but it was actually bearing the hieroglyphs for the frog goddess Heket. And interestingly enough, the hieroglyphics look like a person sitting at a computer and something is manifesting like a DNA helix on the other side of the computer. How appropriate for KEK, who is the deification of darkness, coming into being, manifesting. And that means manifesting through people being on their computers in a community and putting their emotions into a frog-like figure whose name is KEK or KOK, and associated with this election and things like that. So very much meme magic, and it doesn't need you to believe in it to work. That's the thing about magic. And I don't think it's any accident that this was a mislabeled KEK statue that was actually Heket, a female frog. I think that this was a ceremonious birthing ritual that was brought up by this deity, this deification process itself. I'll try to explain. Heket, who was the little statue of the mislabeled KEK statue of the frog that everyone found, had the hieroglyphs of Heket, who was in ancient Egyptian theology the goddess of fertility, who was depicted as a frog, but later she became known as the goddess of resurrection because she was known to have breathed life into Horus, who was the son and resurrection of Osiris, who is depicted as a very green centerpiece of the ancient Egyptian mythology. And I was kind of surprised that he's incredibly green, like green as Pepe the Frog, you could say. And I always thought he was black-skinned or maybe blue because he's associated with death and resurrection, but he's green than a myrrh, so that was surprising to me. And you may notice his headpiece looks rather phallic. At this point, everybody started stocking up on these little statues, and they would sit at their computers and make memes, and the little goddess of resurrection, Heket, would, well, I don't know, meme magic KEK into existence, maybe? Anyway, people went frog crazy, and there were all kinds of praise KEK, this and that, and shrines and everything. But let's go ahead and get back to the story. The 8/7s post, which oddly enough had the word KEK in it, yeah, is known as the prophecy of KEK, and then the statue was found with the hieroglyphs. By now everybody's praying to KEK, like for real seriously. Pepe had pretty much gone from feels good man to feels bad man to smug Pepe, and there were all kinds of dank memes of Pepe's, and man, there were new species of frogs discovered all over the place, and they're, you know, weird. Some of them weren't even really identified. That one's the yin-yang frog, I think. That one's just crazy looking. This is the glass frog, see-through frog. And they're, yeah, just straight up orange frogs. Hairy frogs. These are leucistic frogs. Oh yeah, there were snakes too that were new species discovered. Rainbow snakes. And that one just freaks me out. This guy is the closest living relative of a huge frog known as Beelzebufo. Does that name remind you of anybody? Yeah, I'm sorry. If I laugh, it's because this thing makes me nervous. There was a straight up frog in my house and I don't know how it got there. That was the first day I ever started researching our friend here, KEK. It was there when I got home, and it was a tiny, tiny frog, but it was in my house. So, yeah. A similar thing actually happened to Ivanka Trump. She found a frog in the skyscraper of their office during the campaign. And on September 10th, this was posted by Trump's son, Don Jr., that is. Here's where it gets kind of dark. 3 things happened on September 11th, 2016, within 48 hours of each other. First of all, Hillary declared war on Pepe the Frog due to his association with the alt-right. And then, pretty immediately afterwards, she had a spell where she fell out. And that was the second thing that happened. Third and weirdest thing that happened was that Pepe's musical anthem is discovered on YouTube. A few anonymous 4chan contributors discovered an old track from the 80s on YouTube. As you can see, it depicts a Pepe-like frog holding a magic wand, and it says magic sound. There looks like a 666 backward swirl in the middle. The name of the song is called Chatelet, which is clearly labeled point emerging, probably entering. And this is thought to symbolize that Pepe is emerging into our reality at points of probability, like the numbers randomly generated, the doubles and everything. So I'm gonna come back to that in a little bit. So the lyrics are in Italian and it's a pop song, and it's become the anthem of the cult of KEK. They're translated as cosmic absolute, regular reality, breath of an image concept, syntony of civilizations. So this word syntony, it means a matching of frequencies, more specifically when two oscillations reach the same resonant frequency. It's also used in psychology as a term that means emotionally in harmony with one's environment. So a syntony of civilizations would essentially mean becoming the same resonant frequency across civilizations, across time and culture. Incidentally, the word syntony was only used very shortly before the turn of the century of the year 1900. So it hasn't been used in over 100 years, and it was only used very briefly, mostly for the psychology aspect. I want to let you hear from Margaret, who is a Kekistani, I guess you could say. Here she is.
Chatelet, my friends. My name is Margaret, and I'd like to invite you to join me in an ongoing series entitled Praise KEK, which hopes to fully explain the way in which meme magic from the ancient world has been brought back to life by modern internet users who only wish to remain anonymous, with all glory going to the frog. Donald J. Trump is perhaps best known as the man chosen by KEK to be the winner of the recent American presidential election. Mainstream heretical media, who have so far failed to understand our devotion to KEK or the memes through which we express that devotion, are victims of another double standard. That is, the double numbers through which KEK shows his influence. Every follower of KEK knew that Trump would win when a forum post on a Chinese sand art fan site prophesied that fact back in June 2016. There is not only a double standard, but a double universe existing simultaneously and miraculously. Many followers of KEK are aware of the split timeline theory. Current scholars believe that the god KEK cleaved time itself, saving us, his chosen people, to live in the timeline where Trump wins the election, known affectionately as the Berenstein universe. We don't just live in the timeline where KEK communicates to us through double digits. We live in the timeline where KEK has cursed our enemies with the double standards through which they are destroying themselves. KEK uses his memes created anonymously to influence the real world. I hope you continue to join me as I act as a humble servant to KEK, bringing you the true story of how laughter and meme magic infected the modern world as I unveil the mystery of the cult of KEK and his meme magic. Chatelet.
Thank you, Margaret. And so that was a devotee of the KEK movement. And as you can see, there are a bunch of places named KEK. And you're probably wondering how serious all this is, like if it's satire or if it's real. The lines get blurred pretty quickly, like all these Pepe heads on actual soldiers. Let's put that down for just a moment, and let's talk about what is serious. That is the KEK facilities. There are 2 huge facilities in Japan that are particle accelerators that are making matter and antimatter. They're innovative, and honestly, it's very possible that all this messing with matter and antimatter and crashing particles together and such things have really caused some serious dimensional issues. They're doing what's called CP symmetry. And just like I was talking about earlier, the oscillations becoming the same resonant frequency, that's exactly what they're doing. They're studying CP violation, and like zombies, they all say the same thing about our universe. They say our universe used to have equal number of matter and antimatter in it, but now it doesn't. And what happened to all the antimatter? And that's like a ridiculous question, because we're made of matter and we're annihilated by antimatter. Anyway, weird things started happening around this election time, like Trump looks just like Patton, and they wondered if they had reincarnated him or something, and there's talk of him being a time traveler and everything. And by the way, the word Trump suddenly appeared in the Bible around the election time. Yeah, I'm sorry that I laugh. I laugh because it scurs me, y'all. It is freaky stuff. But here's about the KEK accelerators.
Welcome to KEK, the High Energy Accelerator Research Organization. We experiment and research on the origin of the universe, unknowns in matter, and secrets of life.
Don't those little swirly things look a lot like that symbol on the hieroglyphics?
We have 2 campuses.
And that's dubs, y'all.
One in Tsukuba City and the other in Tokai Village. At the Tsukuba campus, we accelerate electrons, and at the Tokai campus, protons.
So each particle beam is made up of protons, electrons, and also positrons. That's P-E-P-E, Pepe, millions of times. That means lots and lots of point emerging, probably entering places.
After the Big Bang, the same number of particles and antiparticles existed. The universe today is only made up of ordinary matter.
Yeah, isn't that a problem, guys? All this ordinary matter?
Almost all antiparticles have somehow disappeared.
Because they don't belong here.
For this to happen, there must be a difference in the behavior of particles and antiparticles. This asymmetry in their behavior is called CP violation, which introduced a model that contained 6 quarks, even though only 3 quarks were known at the time. In 2001, the Bell experiment successfully measured CP violation in B meson decays. The Babar experiment in the United States published a similar result.
And did you catch that was 2001? It seems a little early to me to be having particle accelerators running all over the world. But anyway, so the Babar is at SLAC in California, and it has a Pep 2. So it has a Pepe, basically. And I don't know if you can see the onks on this thing, but the radio frequency cavities that create luminosity and extra power are basically what Pepe is designed for. The Bell 2 detector is a particle accelerators detector in one of the KEK facilities.
Let's see in detail how the Bell 2 detector works. An electron and positron are accelerated to nearly the speed of light. They are then collided at the center of the detector. The positron is the antimatter counterpart to the electron. When these 2 particles collide, they annihilate into a pair of B mesons. B mesons quickly decay into several lighter particles, which fly away in all directions.
That's what they look at, is for the decay. It's the split, not even second, it's like nanoseconds of right when the particles break apart into bagillions of pieces. That's an actual technical term, bagillions. I just made it up. I mean, are they really just making dark matter come into this world? Or are they really just doing CP violation? It's the one thing that the standard model can't explain, and we're all just wondering what dark matter is, but really we're making it every second that we have these huge particle accelerators running and colliding antimatter and matter together. I mean, we used to be, I thought, focused on finding our creation story, how matter was made, but now it really just seems to be concerned with antimatter. Which brings the story back to KEK. So remember the Berkeley riots? Berkeley is one of the places that stores the most antimatter in the world. So in 2017, there were a bunch of Berkeley protests. It was kind of a anti-Trump thing. There was a big Kekistani presence there. Berkeley is the place that they have stored antimatter the longest. I feel that it's probably the place that this guy was talking about, the CERN insider, when he said this back in 2015.
They once kept dark matter in a college. I won't name it for the sake of the college or the university. They had to move it to a deep underground facility because of what was happening to the people in the college. People began to have vivid dreams, nightmares. Violence began to erupt, and vile things began to happen in those places, it effectively increases paranormal activity around where it's contained. And this is why they shift facilities.
Antimatter affects people, and the more it's produced, the more negative forces are supposedly unleashed inside of people as well. I don't know if you saw any footage from the Berkeley riots, but yeah, this is how it's described. Very negative things like extreme anger, hatred, fear, and all sorts of other things can be generated in the snap of a finger by this type of experimentation with antimatter and the decay, which is dark matter, decay from collisions. So opening that doorway into those dimensions is inviting senseless chaos and anger. I'd like to think that's not true, but neither side seems to know what the other side is really feeling.
Are you all right? Really all right?
Get out of my way.
What are y'all doing? What are y'all doing?
I'm filming videos.
Why are y'all filming? What are you filming? What's there to film? All the Nazis are on the other side of the street.
How do you know they're Nazis? Have you talked to any of them?
Yeah, because
I
I've
don't
seen
see
some
any
Nazi
Nazi
flags.
flags.
Yeah, there is.
I can't see a single
You know
one.
there's a Nazi flag, so don't even pretend.
There is some confusion because the Kekistani flag, well, is basically modeled after the Nazi flag, I guess. I mean, what do you think? And it seems that, some of them, I guess, are Nazis. I don't know. And almost as if it was done on purpose, the Antifa symbol is the exact same symbol as the 1933 Communist Party of Germany in the 1930s. So it seems that both sides are using symbolism of the same faction, Nazi Germany, 1930s.
Pakistani people are here. They stand with Bannon because Bannon stands with the oppressed minorities, the oppressed people of Kekistan. They will be heard. They will be set free. Reparations for Kekistan now. We will. They've lived under Norman oppression for too long. The oppression will end.
All y'all need to know is that flag looks like the Nazi flag without a swastika. That's all you need to know about that.
The only thing on a Nazi flag is a swastika. So what's a Nazi flag without a swastika? Nothing more, nothing less. Have a flag with yellow and purple on it. You'd be like it was a Nazi flag. Nope, this is the Kekistan flag right here. It says that's phony. There's no Kekistan. A Kekistan denier. We have a Kekistan denier. He's denying the Kekistan. You guys heard it. He's denying the Kekistan right here. And what do you think?
Explain to him what Kekistan is. Wow, that's a long.
If we can shorten it to like 30 seconds.
Okay,
let's
Kekistan is like an online community of displaced peoples on the internet.
Yeah.
And it's an online community of trolls that do it for their deity, KEK. And they're also racist and bigoted. They're probably, and they're Nazis.
And wait, what?
What does that mean? What is it?
It's Free Kekistan. It's for the ethnic people of Kekistan. They're oppressed, and we're fighting for their freedom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we want them to be able to have their own state and be their own people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You betcha.
Yeah, maybe write it down and support it.
Yeah, I will.
Thank you.
I actually was going to do some outreach there.
Really?
Big time.
That's awesome.
Then ISIS came around and it was all stopped.
Yeah, I know.
So big time, but doesn't mean I'm not going.
I know, right?
It's just a short season, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Free
Take care.
Kekistan.
Absolutely. God bless.
Oh my gosh.
Fucking touch me again! You saw you touched me, right?
Hey,
Fucking touch me again!
Hit me. Gotta understand the conditions, see? That side supports the ruling class and the federal government, the man who's in power.
Yeah, I don't support that.
We are the rebellion.
How many fucking countries are we occupying right now? How many Native Americans died for that flag? You're real quiet now. We're talking about genocide. We're talking about colonialism. How many people died installing communism in Russia? We're talking about genocide.
It seems that both sides, I don't know, the lines are blurred. It's chaos. It's really just chaos. And the fact that people are fighting so hard for things that are chaotic. They don't seem to really stand for anything. And they mix reality in with satire, which, sure, that can be okay in healthy doses, but like, for instance, this picture, those are real soldiers, and that's a real thing. But when you slap some Pepe heads on all the soldiers, it becomes about Kekistan, which is not real. This is the symbol for chaos and for chaos magic. And if you notice on the cover of the Pepe album from the Chatelet song that from the 1980s, it features a clock very similar to the Trump Tower clock, and also a man with bright yellow hair. And on that man's head was the chaos symbol. There's an excellent interview done by Greg Carlwood of the Higher Side Chats when he interviewed ATL Carver about KEK. And here's a little bit of that interview here. They're talking about a video game from the 1990s that was called Donald Trump's Real Estate Tycoon, and you got to build your own empire and be a tycoon.
And they have all these just random generic logos, and one of them is Pepe, the word Pepe.
Right. A corporate name you can choose called Pepe, and the logo behind it seems to be a winding road symbol, which you could definitely connect to this saga if you wanted to. It is quite a winding road, especially if you were going to plant something in the mid-90s about something that was going to happen in 2016.
At some point within this timeline, in between adopting Sad Pepe, we transform him into Smug Pepe. It's a frog who has this very smug expression on it, this very sly grin, and he's holding up his finger and thumb to his chin. It was very perplexing to us that Pepe underwent this transformation where he now has this secret that he's harboring. There's really no justification for the meme. Like, we talk about how memes are very competitive and they have to resonate in the right way. There was really none of that for this meme. It just came out of the ether. The common response to posting that picture, people would say, "Why so smug, Pepe?" It's almost like a precursor to Trump winning, and then you see the media having to eat their words and all this blowing up in their faces. People are feeling very smug now. It's another aspect of the puzzle. It's so strange that it worked out like that. You'll just see every day on 4chan. Someone will post a message some way significant, and their post number will be 77. KEK works in mysterious ways, and 1% chance goes to them. They get the dubs. It is the most perfect example of chaos magic working that you could ever imagine, and I'll explain to you why. Some people, this is just their hobby. Once you start getting into it, you realize it's so entertaining. It's a buffet of emotional states. It really is. And then you'll go into another thread and you'll just be laughing at all this banter going back and forth. And then you'll go into another thread, they're airing out their woes, and you get very sad. You get to ride the whole spectrum of the emotional roller coaster within the span of an hour. The principle in chaos magic is that these high energy emotional states, they are what charge sigils. And so while you're browsing through these emotional states on 4chan, you're also seeing Pepe's, because he's a very popular meme. Maybe this is how people were charging this sigil with all this power just by the mechanics of the image board. The other way to charge a sigil that's very significant is trance state. Like when you're watching TV, and it's the time when your eyes glaze over, the subconscious membrane kind of loosening up, send your energy out into the world or be manipulated. This state of no mind, this meditative state, that's another way to charge a sigil. A corporate logo is a sigil in a sense. So when you see a sigil and you're charging your sigil, right, eventually your sigil is now going to be its own entity, and it's going to be charging other people, directing energy towards other people. That's what I see a logo as. I see a logo almost as like an anti-sigil.
A top memologist dubbed Gobekli Pepe, which is the most perfect name. But he found something about a fan-made version of Pokemon called Pokemon Chaos, of all things. Can you tell us about this one?
I didn't know that some people are so into Pokemon that they make their own games for it. One of these games is called Pokemon Chaos. This guy, he made his whole roster of...
So you essentially get the point here. Again, this video really spooked me, because there are actual people out there who believe in this phenomenon, this meme magic. If you even look on Twitter here, meme magic. And like the lady said in the video, there's a blur between what's satire and what's real, and that is part of what lends it to the chaos part. Because if you don't know what's real and what is fake, that creates chaos. You don't know what to think. And I was looking also the KEK particle accelerator facility in Japan. I was looking like, who's following these guys? Like, will you see a bunch of Kekistani people following? Here's one right here. This is the chaos symbol. A leaf that works chaos magic. Memes are your most omnipotent weapon. I'm going to keep scrolling. Granted, there's all kinds of people following, but but I think it says something that you have the so-called Kekistanis following. KEK magician. And we really don't know what the result is to smashing matter and antimatter together. Is it creating dark matter? Is it creating instability? Is it creating instability? Is it creating chaos with the fabric of time and space? We can only really speculate. But there is something to this phenomenon of the Berenstain Bears thing. Because when I was a kid, you know, I mean, of course this is before YouTube and stuff, but there was no idea of like Mandela effect, like when Mandela effect first introduced. The Mandela effect is the pseudoscientific belief that some differences between one's memories and the real world are caused by changes to past events in the timeline. Many Mandela effect believers believe it is caused by accidental travel between alternate universes, although some others propose that history has been deliberately altered after the fact by malicious extra-dimensional beings within the same timeline, or by experiments at CERN, which is another particle accelerator facility, the more famous one that has a large hadron collider. It was named after Nelson Mandela, whom some people erroneously believe to have died in prison in the 1980s. I had never believed that, though. And I never really watched the Berenstain or read the Berenstain Bears, so that particular thing I don't recall as having been different, although it is kind of weird to have that spelling. Berenstain? Berenstain? Really? And the whole Shazam thing. Well, that one, was that Sinbad as a genie? I don't know. Shifting location or size. Location and shape of Australia, New Zealand, Japan. But the thing is, maps, the Western world created the modern maps, and they mess with the sizes of these places, so that can explain that. Fruit Loops. Yeah, I think I remember it as this spelling. The hell, it's so, and literally looking at this stuff just sends chills throughout my body. This is chilling stuff because it involves a lot of things we don't know about. We don't know about alternate dimensions. Even these scientists that study it, even these people that run the Hadron Collider, they don't know exactly what the hell they're doing. They're just doing it. What happens when particles collide? When protons collide, the powerful machine LHC, Large Hadron Collider, accelerates and steers billions of protons to collide with billions of other protons. The goal of this work is to answer fundamental questions to understand nature. But what really happens when protons collide? Protons consist of quarks bound by gluons. And in a head-on collision between two protons, it is the constituent quarks and gluons that collide. The graphic below pictures two protons about to collide. Inside each proton, you can find a sea of quarks and gluons. Why so many? Haven't you learned that there are only 3 quarks inside of a proton? Nope. I don't know what a quark is. Well, we say that a proton consists of 3 valence quarks, but also a whole bunch of C or virtual quarks and antiquarks stemming from gluons. You see? What the hell? What is the outcome of such a collision when protons collide with such large entities as the LHC? The collision results in a shower of all types of particles. As we saw in the video, the particles kind of just stretched out, and that's what they measure with these projects. The ones usual matter is made of, and others that only existed just after the Big Bang. So are they talking about antimatter or dark matter? I'm not sure. The new particles are usually much heavier than the original colliding particles. To say it simply, all the energy we put into the collision can come out as mass instead. So in a proton-proton collision, anything can happen, provided some important principles are respected, such as energy and momentum conservation. And that's just one site explaining it. Really, no one knows what happens when well, let's see what this video says.
The Big Hadron Collider is definitely big. With a circumference of 17 miles, it is the largest collider on the planet. But the last fraction of its name is a bit misleading. This is because what collides on the LHC are the small pieces inside the hadrons, not the hadrons themselves. Hadrons are compound particles made up of quarks and gluons. The gluons carry the strong force, which allows the quarks to stick together and unite them in a single particle. The main forage for the LHC are hadrons called protons. Protons consist of 3 quarks and an indefinite number of gluons. Protons in turn constitute the atoms, which are the basic components of everything around us. If a proton were enlarged to the size of a basketball, it would look empty. Like atoms, protons are mostly empty space. The individual...
So again, we are all energy. We are all made of protons and neutrons or whatever, yet we see things as concrete within the small spectrum of visible light. Visible light is a tiny, tiny spectrum in the light spectrum. For example, you know, with these, I don't know, like the Hubble telescope or whatever, like all these satellites, they look out into the space and they use X-ray, they use infrared, and depending on what frequency they look at the universe with, they see different things.
quarks and gluons inside are known to be extremely small, less than 1/10,000th the size of the whole proton. The interior of a proton would resemble the atmosphere around him. Richard Ruiz, a theoretician at the University of Durham. It is a mixture of empty space and microscopic particles that, for all intents and purposes, have no physical volume. But if you put those particles inside a balloon, you will see the balloon expand. Although the internal particles are microscopic, they interact with each other and exert a force on their environment, inevitably producing something that does have an observable volume.
So, I mean, we could go into the whole rabbit hole live right now, but I definitely encourage you to do your own research. I mean, you can never really come to the conclusion that you know everything in this universe. There's just too many complexities. And then if the timeline is constantly in flux, then that just makes things even more complicated. Because then things that were true are no longer true, and things that are not true now could be true soon. I believe that there are infinite universes, infinite realities, and we may be converging with realities that are less than 1% similar to our, that have a less than 1% variation, where only tiny things change. You know, but there might be other realities where, you know, you don't breathe air, you breathe water, or humans breathe methane or something like that. It's just, you could just get lost in all of this stuff and speculate on so many different things. It's very fascinating. It's spooky and scary on a lot of different levels. And, you know, the only thing I could say is just you have to form your own opinion and constantly research and look at things, which is difficult to do when you have to work and, you know, pay bills and things like that. And then you have pop culture that kind of just distracts you from everything. But then if you don't know about pop culture and you don't, you know, read into, you know, very surface level things, it's hard to relate to other people. You know, for example, the Soulja Boy thing, like, you know, that's a thing a lot of people have been talking about. But let's say you didn't know, let's say somebody wanted to talk to you about that, and you didn't know what the hell was going on. You know, how engaged can you be in that conversation? You know, the average person, they're not looking into fucking particle accelerators. So, this is very fascinating stuff, and I'm going to be continuing research into this. We had an extra long stream today for the Sunday morning show, almost 4 hours. Thank you for everybody who tuned in. If you want to catch me live on the Sunday morning show every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time at twitch.tv/the MC Faceman. I also post the videos on YouTube after I've streamed them. Everywhere. I'm the MC Faceman on YouTube, on Twitter. Follow me, subscribe, like, hit the notification bell. I have started 2 other channels. Well, I haven't posted anything on them yet, but I'm looking to divide my content. I'm going to be starting my own contrarian YouTube channel, independent news and opinion channel. So there's going to be that. There's going to be a gamer channel, and then my traditional the MC Faceman YouTube channel will focus more on music. I will continue to stream on Twitch. I won't be making any new Twitch accounts. So if ever I need to stream something, it's going to be here. So make sure you follow me and support the channel. We need more independent voices in media, more More voices that are not just like, you know, fucking, oh, you know, just another white guy, just another black guy. You're getting a perspective from someone with a very unique perspective. Okay, I'm mixed race. I grew up in New York City. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a socialist. I'm also not a Republican. I consider myself closer to a libertarian. I value independent thought. And I always believe that you must question everything. Question everyone. Question even your own self and your own presumptions. Because the main thing that guides me is that we live in one of, you know, where we live, what we call reality is not the only reality. And that anything is possible. That's the only thing that can explain this. Is that there's infinite possibility, as David Icke says. Not that I agree with all what he says. But there's infinite possibility. And that we are made of energy. We co-create our reality. This illusion. What some call a simulation. We have much more power than we believe, and that everything that we, you know, a lot of the stuff we see in the media is meant to diminish independent thought and to make you believe that things are out of your control. We can create the world that we want, but we must unite. We must find common ground. And we have to believe in ourselves. And that's it for the Sunday morning show. This is Face Man. I am your friendly neighborhood contrarian. Thank you so much for checking out the show. Please comment. If you see this on YouTube, comment. Hit me up on Twitter. Let me know what you think about it, what I could do better. I want to improve the channel. I want to improve the content. I'm dedicated to providing content and making this my full time. But it's going to take support, and it's going to need your help. I'm going to need your help. Because I will make this happen. I believe I have a voice that brings value. I have a perspective that brings value. And I will continue to share my opinions. Take care. Have a great week, guys. Oh, last but not least, let's take a look at some memes real quick. I didn't even get to look at it last week. Or no, we did last week. The week before that. Some quick memes. Me enjoying the internet. TikTok ads. Facts. When your parents get divorced and you stay at your dad's new place for the first time. We have pizzas. We have... me. Depression being here. Wanting friends, not wanting to contact anyone on a regular basis. So we'll suck dick for a while. Respect women. Also Gillette. 10-year challenge. Facts, my friends. Making fun of Democrats, making fun of Republicans. Perfectly balanced as all things should be. When you know your assigned FBI agent is watching, but you're about to dig into weird porn. You don't want any part of this. I'm so hyped for that movie. And that's it. All right. Take it easy, guys. Have a great week.